Chapter 822. The title of the previous chapter is wrong. It should be Chapter 17. The latest chapter of the Holy Hall has reached 18. This chapter is only 18. The title can't be changed. Please forgive me. Chu Yang stood in front of the elegant room. He turned around and looked at Chu Tonghu and Chu Tongjiao. His eyes were cold and sharp. "Don't you two care about the kinship between us?" He said in a low voice. "I know that you two hate that my return may rob your interests. But you have to know that hatred is hatred. Our blood comes from the same source, but it can't be changed. Even if we fight against each other, we still have the same root." Coldness rose in Chu Yang's heart, and his killing intent spread. But he still controlled himself and said these words. Rather than saying that he was admonishing the two, it would be better to say that Chu Yang was forcing himself. Forcing himself to kill, because Chu Yang even knew how these two would answer. Was there a need to think about the answer? Sure enough, Chu Tonghu sneered and said sarcastically, "Kinship. Facing the huge interests of the whole clan, you still have the mood to talk about kinship. You're already at death's door. Can these words save you? Chu Yang, I have to admire you. You've been outside for 18 years, and you've become stupid." Chu Yang smiled silently. He then muttered, "You still have the leisure to talk about blood ties when you're faced with the enormous interests of the clan. You're already at death's door. Do you think that blood ties can save you?" Then, he smiled and said from the bottom of his heart, "Thank you for reminding me." A sturdy man appeared behind him and said coldly, 13th Master has been waiting for a long time. "What are you waiting for?" Chu Tonghu smiled and said, "Take him in now." As he said, he pushed Chu Yang's back. The door opened at this moment. Chu Yang saw Yi Wubo at first glance. This person could be the culprit and mastermind behind the scenes that he had imagined countless times, and was most likely to cause him to lead a wandering life outside for 18 years. Yi Wubo was dressed in black and had a thin face. When he looked over, Chu Yang's eyes seemed to be burning with a ghastly fire. In that instant, he could only hear the cries of ghosts, as if he had been born in a graveyard. "You're Chu Yang?" Yi Wubo looked at him gloomily, but his voice was very gentle. In fact, after hearing it, people immediately felt a sense of familiarity in their hearts. Chu Yang's heart thumped. This Yi Wubo actually tried to bewitch me when we just met. His voice clearly contained psychic fluctuations that had been brewing for a long time. They were very subtle and cautious. Clearly, this was only the beginning. "I'm Chu Yang." Chu Yang smiled gently. "Second uncle, you're also here. Aren't you here to drink? And this is..." Chu Fei Long's face was as cold as ice. "You still want to drink?" Yi Wubo waved his hands, and a trace of a smile appeared in his cold eyes. He could clearly see that the young man who had just entered did not have any cultivation at all. "Chu Yang." "Yes, Chu Feiling's son." "Haha, not bad, not bad." Yi Wubo actually laughed and said, "Have a seat." Chu Yang nodded, and sat down opposite him. "You're brave and have a good temperament," Yi Wubo praised. "It's enough to comfort Chu Feiling that is like this." The whole room was filled with an oppressive atmosphere. If ordinary people came in, they would have been scared to death. Just the invisible pressure alone would make people go crazy. But Chu Yang's expression didn't change in the face of several monarch-level experts. Just this kind of determination was already much better than ordinary people. It was no wonder that Yi Shisan had also praised him. Yi Shisan turned his head and said to Chu Fei Long, "This little one is stronger than your 3 sons." Chu Fei Long's face twitched. Chu Tonghu and Chu Tongjiao were standing behind Chu Yang now. Their faces twitched, and their eyes were full of hatred as they looked at Chu Yang's back. Yi Shisan looked at Chu Yang and said, "Maybe you don't know me. My surname is Yi, and I'm from the Yi clan." Chu Yang's expression didn't change, and he said, "You're indeed extraordinary." Yi Wubo said, "My name is Yi Wubo. I'm ranked 13th in the Yi clan. People in the Holy Hall call me 13th Master. Of course, there are also people who call me Yi Shisan." Chu Yang nodded and didn't say anything. He knew that this was just Yi Shisan's opening speech. Since Yi Shisan had said this opening speech and gradually deepened the power of mental bewitchment, Yi Shisan wouldn't take action immediately. Instead, he wanted to talk to Chu Yang. But Chu Yang had a rough idea of what he wanted to talk to Chu Yang about. Chu Yang, I asked the two of them to call you here today because I want to ask you something. Yi Wubo tapped the table lightly with his finger. The tapping sound was actually filled with a kind of ethereal and peculiar rhythm. Obviously, it had a peculiar effect of bewitching people. Just tapping the table like this was actually a kind of divine technique that could bewitch people's heart. When Chu Tonghu and Chu Tongjiao heard this sound, they instantly felt absent-minded. Chu Yang's eyes also gradually became perplexed. That day, someone went to kill you. 2 days ago, early in the morning, Yi Wubo's voice was gloomy and gentle, is it? Chu Yang shook his head and pinched his eyebrows gently, as if he wanted to get rid of that dizziness. He forced himself to support himself and said, yes, someone wanted to kill me. Yi Wubo's finger tapped the table slowly with a constant rhythm. His voice was even gentler as he said, then, how did that person die? Chu Yang's eyes were perplexed. Looking at Yi Wubo's finger tapping the table, he murmured, how did that person die? Yes, how did that person die? Yi Wubo's eyes stared closely at Chu Yang's eyes. That person, is so fierce. Chu Yang's eyes revealed a trace of fear. Fierce, but he's still dead. Yi Wubo's eyes flickered strangely, emitting a faint red light. Yes. He's dead. How did he die? Yi Wubo asked patiently. I can't say. Chu Yang's eyes were gradually losing focus. From Yi Wubo's point of view, he could clearly see that Chu Yang's pupils were dilating. Obviously, he couldn't control his divine sense anymore. Chu Feilong also became nervous. After all, Chu Yang's answer would really reveal the biggest mystery in his heart. Who's behind Chu Yang? Why can he make the law enforcement officers lower their heads? Why can he turn danger into safety time and time again? He stared at Chu Yang nervously and pricked up his ears, not wanting to miss a single word. He even neglected that his two bodies were also swaying and sliding slowly to the ground. Yi Wubo's guards behind him caught Chu Tonghu and Chu Tongjiao and let them lie gently on the ground, so as not to disturb Yi Wubo's hypnosis on Chu Yang. Of course, you can't say it to others, but it's okay to say it to me. Yi Wubo's eyes flickered, and his voice became softer and softer. After all, he came to kill you, but he's dead. Isn't it something to be happy about that you're still alive? Chu Yang's face relaxed, and he murmured, indeed, are you the one who killed him? Yi Wubo asked softly. No. Chu Yang shook his head honestly. Every time he answered, there was a kind of trance lingering in his voice. Well, you're not the one who killed him. I believe you, Yi Wubo encouraged him. Chu Yang revealed a smile of being trusted. Then, he died in front of you, right? Yi Wubo asked again. Yes, Chu Yang said, he died very miserably. Died very miserably? Yi Wubo asked with great interest. How miserably? Chu Yang laughed, with a kind of mysterious flaunting and a kind of pleasure from killing a powerful person. He even said with a smile of exultation, he fell into an ambush, ha ha ha. Yi Wubo's eyes lit up and he said, fell into an ambush? Yes, so many of us attacked him at the same time. That guy thought that I didn't know anything and was full of complacency, so he was attacked by us at the same time. Chu Yang laughed naively. Speaking of this, Yi Wubo's 4 guards looked a little ferocious and excited. Old Third Ma, the truth of how you were killed is about to be revealed. We'll take revenge for you. Impressive. Yi Wubo praised. This is really a good plan to deal with the enemy. But, was this ambush set up in advance? Chu Yang rewarded him with a look as if he was looking at an idiot. Nonsense, since it's an ambush, of course it has to be set up in advance. Yi Wubo said puzzledly, but how did you know that this person was going to kill you? How can such an expert expose his whereabouts and purpose so easily? Chu Yang was instantly amused and he said, of course, this problem can't be solved by others. But to me, there's no such concern at all. Why? Yi Wubo's voice became gentler and more delicate. Even his eyes became more and more amiable and warm. The sound of his fingers tapping on the table became softer and softer, but it also became more and more hurried. It was almost as if they were connected together. His fingers even formed a phantom on the table. We have a spy. Chu Yang said happily. Chu Feilong's face changed greatly. He felt that something was wrong and wanted to stop Chu Yang. At the same time, the aura of 4 high-level monarchs locked onto him at this moment. It was as if 4 mountains were pressing on his body at the same time. Chu Feilong even had difficulty breathing. He couldn't even move his tongue, let alone speak. So there's a spy, Yi Wubo said easily. Of course. Chu Yang said excitedly, proudly and mysteriously, you don't know. Everyone thinks that our Chu clan doesn't get along well with each other, so someone came to bribe us, especially my second uncle. He seems to be targeting me and wants to get rid of me. Actually, actually what? Yi Wubo's voice was still gentle, but he couldn't help but breathe heavily. Some doubts also arose in his heart. Actually, our Chu clan has been passed down for thousands of years. If we were so easily bribed, would there still be a Chu clan now? Chu Yang smiled proudly, don't you think so? Yi Wubo laughed, you're right. Chu Yang said admiringly, my second uncle has endured humiliation for so many years. What's the reason for that? It's really not easy for him, it's too hard for him. Yi Wubo suppressed his emotions that were about to explode. He sighed and said, yes, it's really not easy. It's really not easy. Chapter 823. On one side, Chu Feilong, who was suppressed by the 4 monarch level forces, couldn't move at all. His face was full of despair, and his eyes were full of deep hatred. Extreme fear had almost destroyed his sanity. He knew that as long as Yi Wubo believed Chu Yang's words, he would definitely die today. But now, Yi Wubo obviously believed Chu Yang's words. Yi Wubo's belief came from his strong self-confidence. The Yi clan's triple soul-seizing technique was one of the top 3 interrogation secret techniques. It was comparable to the interrogation secret techniques of the law enforcement officers. In terms of details, it was even better. With Yi Wubo's monarch level strength, if he still couldn't get the information he wanted by using the triple soul-seizing technique to deal with Chu Yang, a teenager who had no cultivation at all, or even got fake information, Yi Wubo felt that he should just dig a hole and bury himself. I'm very interested, Yi Wubo knocked on the table and asked with great interest, how did this second uncle of yours, who has not had it easy, arrange this trap? Chu Yang's eyes also revealed a look of confusion and fear, which seemed to come from the bottom of his heart. It's very easy to set up a trap, but you didn't know about it beforehand, right? Yi Wubo sensitively sensed the confusion and fear in Chu Yang's eyes, and instantly cleverly came to a conclusion, but you didn't know about it beforehand, right? No, who said that I didn't know? Unexpectedly, Chu Yang actually objected to this statement. Oh! Yi Wubo was stunned. I'm just curious. Those people who set up the trap aren't from our Chu clan. Chu Yang said confusedly and proudly, they're my second uncle's friends. Your second uncle's friends? Yi Wubo instantly became serious. He had a feeling of dispelling the clouds to see the clear sky, but I don't know the true face of this mountain, but I'm in this mountain. He faintly felt that there was a big scheme behind this. Yes, Chu Yang said seriously, although I've only returned to the clan for a short period of time, I still know that there's no expert like the Sword Sovereign in our clan, let alone the Sword Sovereign. That's reasonable. Yi Wubo had schemed against the Chu clan for so many years. How could he not know the strength of the Chu clan? Since when did the Chu clan have such a genius like the Sword Sovereign? Then who is it? Yi Wubo frowned. He seemed to be asking Chu Yang, but also seemed to be talking to himself. I only heard someone call him Seventh Master. Chu Yang said, I don't know which seventh master it is. Yi Wubo was shocked. At this moment, his face showed an expression of shock, astonishment, and sudden realization. Inside the room, the bodies of the 4 guards trembled at the same time, and their eyes were filled with hatred. The 2 words seventh master caused a great shock to these experts. It even interrupted Yi Wubo's triple soul-seizing technique, causing the 4 experts to be caught off guard. Thus, the pressure from their imposing aura also relaxed a little. Chu Feilong was finally able to open his mouth and scream, 13th Master, I'm innocent. Don't believe this little bastard. I'm loyal to you, make him shut up. Yi Wubo's face was gloomy and cold. His chest was heaving up and down. A surge of anger and humiliation from being fooled was brewing like a volcano. A monarch-level expert slapped Chu Fei Long's face. With a loud bang, Chu Fei Long's face turned to one side, and half of his teeth fell to the ground. Sword Sovereign, 7th Master. It's 7th Master, Yi Wubo sneered. Gloomy ghost fire was flickering in his eyes. Hello, 7th Master Xiao. Hello, he laughed wildly. I, Yi Wubo, am really a fool. Awuhahaha, 7th Master, Sword Sovereign, 7th Master Xiao of the Xiao clan. The genius of the Xiao clan was of the same generation as Yi Wubo. He was obsessed with swords since he was young. In the big clans, he had a resounding nickname, Sword Maniac. The more Yi Wubo thought about it, the more upset he felt. I've painstakingly planned for 18 years to control the Chu clan in the southeast region. In the future, when something big happens, I'll use the Chu clan to completely cut off one of the Xiao clan's supply bases and block the Xiao clan's continuous supply routes. At the crucial moment, I'll be able to stab the Xiao clan in the back. For this step, Yi Wubo had carefully planned and implemented it step by step. It could be said that he had spent a lot of time thinking about the future. Over the past few years, as Chu Fei Long gradually took over the power, he had also slowly gained some trust from the Xiao clan according to his plan. He had even gained some authority over the Xiao clan's trade routes. He was preparing to help Chu Fei Long gain a firm foothold and fully support him to expand the results of the battle. In the future, he would give the Xiao clan a fatal blow. But he didn't expect to receive such a piece of news at this time. Chu Fei Long had been in contact with the Xiao clan. He even colluded with 7th Master Xiao to kill his right-hand man, Old Third Ma. At this moment, Yi Wubo really wanted to vomit blood. At the same time, he recalled that he had previously sent a martial emperor to assassinate Chu Feiling at the request of Chu Fei Long. That martial emperor was also a subordinate of the Yi clan, but he didn't come back either. Could it be that it was also Chu Fei Long's conspiracy at that time? In this case, under his leadership, the Yi clan thought that they had succeeded. But they were gradually used by the other party and sent to their deaths one by one. And he was still complacent about it. And his plan, which he thought was successful, was actually under the Xiao clan's observation. Every step was observed by the other party. To think that he had been so careful and sneaky in his plan. In the eyes of the Xiao clan, he was definitely the #1 fool in the world. If he knew that they would laugh their heads off after seeing how diligent he was. Thinking of this, Yi Wubo was so embarrassed that he almost wanted to commit suicide. Yi Wubo looked straight at Chu Fei Long. His eyes and face were ferocious, and even his limbs started to tremble. With his cultivation, he actually behaved like this. It could be seen how humiliated he was. Chu Fei Long. Good, good. What a good second Master Chu. What a good second Master Chu. Yi Wubo nodded heavily. I've really belittled you. I've really belittled you. Chu Fei Long looked at him hopelessly. His eyes were full of pleading, but he couldn't say a word. On the other side, after losing Yi Wubo's triple soul-seizing technique, Chu Yang lay on the table softly, as if he had already fainted. This was the most normal reaction after using the triple soul-seizing technique. Chu Fei Long, I really don't understand. Yi Wubo shook his head with all his might, to the extent that his neck made cracking sounds. Then, he nodded his head with all his might, as if he was going to smash his head onto the ground. I've treated you very well. Chu Fei Long looked at him pleadingly. 10 years ago, you were being chased. I only knew that you were Chu Fei Long after I saved your life. After that, I realized that you were ambitious, so I supported you fully to fight against your elder brother. For this reason, I didn't hesitate to use the men of sacrifice of the Yi clan to kill Chu Feiling and his wife, forcing them to the lower 3 heavens. They were separated from their wives and couldn't recover from this setback. And you also took the opportunity to take control of the Chu clan. Yi Wubo sneered self-mockingly. After that, I removed the 4 stewards of the Chu clan who were most loyal to your elder brother and cleared all your obstacles. Just last year, when you had completely stabilized your position and started to cooperate with the Xiao clan, our Yi clan paid the price of 3 experts and successfully caused your father, Chu Xiongqing, to be seriously injured. Then, the power fell into your hands. Then, We took advantage of the time when your elder brother went out to look for medicine and received your request to send a martial emperor to kill Chu Feiling. Today, we're still doing our best to plan for you to remove the last obstacle. Chu Yang is ready to let you take control of the Chu clan and become the clan master. You're ready to do something big. Yi Wubo gritted his teeth and took a deep breath. His malicious eyes widened. All these are for you. We're all helping you. The matters of our Yi clan haven't even started, and you actually colluded with the Xiao clan. Yi Wubo laughed. He exhaled and shook his head. You are really scheming and scheming. Yi Wubo, really didn't realize that you, Chu Feilong, are actually such a great person. Chu Feilong looked at him sadly and hopelessly. His eyes had already turned grey. He knew that he was finished. He was completely finished. Yi Wubo didn't even give him a chance to defend himself. Fortunately, I discovered it early. Yi Wubo shook his head and rejoiced. Otherwise, wouldn't my bones be buried by you in the southeast? He exhaled heavily and stared at Chu Feilong. Suddenly, he screamed from his throat, "Don't look at me with such a gaze. If you continue to look, I'll dig out your eyeballs." Chu Feilong struggled anxiously, but he couldn't move. "You're still looking? You're still looking? Fuck you." Yi Wubo gritted his teeth. His eyes were bloodshot and he finally exploded. He stretched out his right hand and inserted 2 fingers into Chu Feilong's eye socket fiercely. Blood splattered everywhere. Red and black splattered out of the eye socket. The pressure from the 4 martial monarchs couldn't suppress Chu Feilong's miserable howl at this moment. Chu Feilong's 2 eyeballs were thrown to the ground and rolled around. Chu Feilong's miserable howl had turned into a painful gasp. He was suppressed by the 4 martial monarchs again and couldn't make any sound. He could only silently bear this torture of having his eyeballs dug out. The saddest thing was that at this moment, even fainting had become an extravagant wish for him. At one side, Chu Yang's body, which was leaning on the table, trembled slightly. All sorts of feelings welled up in Chu Yang's heart. At one side, 2 horrified screams were heard. Chu Tonghu and Chu Tongjiao woke up at this moment. Their minds were only disturbed by the aftermath of the triple soul seizure, and their spirits weren't seriously restrained. But when they opened their eyes, they saw this horrifying scene. They couldn't help but scream out in terror. Chu Feilong heard their screams and struggled even more violently. He didn't know where he got the strength from, but he suddenly broke free from the suppression of the 4 martial monarchs. He screamed in despair, Jiao run away quickly," to be continued. Chapter 824. Part 7, Chapter 100, Humans Can't Lose Their Conscience. Part 7, Chapter 100, Humans Can't Lose Their Conscience. Chu Feilong knew that he was finished. But when he heard his son's screams, he remembered that his 2 sons were in the same danger as him. And Chu Feilong screamed desperately. The 4 monarch level guards were enraged at the same time. They exerted more force to suppress Chu Feilong. But Chu Feilong seemed to have thrown caution to the wind at this moment. Blood spurted out from his mouth. He broke his heart meridians and unleashed all his vitality. He struggled and shouted, "Escape! Escape! Escape! Teach him a lesson. Make him shut up. Don't let him die so easily." Yi Wubo's face darkened as he ordered coldly. The 4 agreed and attacked at the same time. Chu Feilong screamed as he punched and kicked Chu Feilong. But he still mustered all his strength and shouted, Jiao! Escape! Escape! You must remember. In the future, you must. He mustered all his strength and spat out blood and broken teeth. You must be a good person in the future. This Chu Feilong had used all kinds of schemes in his life. He even schemed against his father and elder brother. It could be said that he had done all kinds of bad things. However, at the moment when he knew that he had no luck and that he had reached a dead end, the words he shouted out were actually to educate his son. You must remember, you must be a good person in the future, teach him a good lesson. Yi Wubo looked at Chu Feilong cruelly and happily. Chu Tonghu and Chu Tongjiao screamed wildly. They jumped up and wanted to rush out. Yi Wubo stretched out his palms. His arms and palms seemed to have grown out at this moment. He had already grabbed the two of them back and slammed them onto the ground. Chu Fei Long was no longer in his human form. He still struggled and shouted, Chu Yang, Chu Yang. They're your younger brothers. They're your younger brothers. I beg you, please save them, save them. I'll repay you in my next life. I'll repay you. Ah. Chu Yang's heart was filled with grief. He didn't even know how he should react. From what Yi Wubua had just said, to the things that Chu Fei Long had done in his life, the 18 years of suffering that his parents had suffered, the 18 years of wandering outside, the death of his clan's backbone, and his grandfather's injury. They all had their answers. Everything in front of him was created by him. He made use of Han Xiaoran, Shuo Xinliang, and the others' analysis and intelligence in the afternoon to successfully divide and drive a wedge between Yi Wubua and Chu Feilong. Until now, it could be said that he had achieved his goal. So many years of suffering, so many years of pain, and the hatred and mystery of 2 lifetimes were all compensated at this moment. Everything came to light. He had finally gotten his revenge. Logically speaking, he should feel relieved and happy. Chu Yang himself also felt that he should be very relaxed and happy. However, in his heart, he did not feel the slightest bit of joy from taking revenge. Instead, there was an oppressive heaviness. It was as though his soul was being interrogated at this moment, and he was also being tortured. All sorts of emotions welled up within him, and he could feel the joys and sorrows of life. In that instant, he didn't know what to feel. Stop! Yi Wubua shouted coldly. The 4 martial monarchs stopped at the same time. I just realized that there are 2 of your sons here. Ha ha ha! Yi Wubua laughed. You're called Chu Tenghu, and you're called Chu Tengjiao? He smiled cruelly. I won't kill all of you, but only one of you can live. With a clang, he threw the 2 swords on the ground and laughed coldly. Pick up your sword. Kill your brothers and kill Chu Fei Long. Then, the one who kills him will be able to live. After he said this, the entire room became silent. Even Chu Fei Long, who was on the verge of death, and the 4 guards opened their mouths in shock. Yi Wubua's plan was extremely vicious. Yi Wubua. You're so vicious. You're so vicious. Chu Fei Long screamed miserably. His face was hideous. Chu Tengjiao looked at the shining swords on the ground. His whole body trembled and his face turned pale. He retreated step by step. Chu Yang couldn't help but jump up. But at this moment, an unforeseen event happened. Chu Tengjiao roared. He took a big stride forward and grabbed the long sword on the ground. Without any hesitation, he turned his hand and stabbed the sword into Chu Tengjiao's heart fiercely. Chu Yang was so shocked that he couldn't react. Even Yi Wubua, who was the initiator of this, was dumbfounded. He was in a state of shock. The 4 guards opened their mouths even more. Chu Fei Long lay on the ground on the verge of death. He only heard a loud roar and then a kai sound. His eyes were already blinded and he couldn't see anything. He could only turn his head in vain and ask anxiously, what happened? What's happening? Blood spurted out from Chu Tengjiao's mouth. Chu Tengjiao's young face was filled with fear and shock. He lowered his head and looked at the swords in his mouth. Then, he looked up at his elder brother in disbelief. You, the muscles on Chu Tenghu's face twitched. His lips trembled. Tengjiao, don't blame me. If I don't kill you, everyone will die. This is our chance, our only chance. On the ground, Chu Fei Long finally understood what was happening. He spurted out blood and his heart ached. Chu Tenghu, Chu Tenghu trembled all over. Don't blame me, father. You always teach us that we must be vicious and merciless in our lives. We should do it if we can, otherwise, we won't even be able to catch up with the hot shit. This is my life. Decades of life. I don't want to die. Then you'll kill me. Chu Tengjiao's pupils were dilated. He struggled to ask the last sentence. Tengjiao, you're still young. You don't know how fun this world is. You don't know how much power there is. Chu Tenghu tilted his head. His expression became more and more perverse. However, his body stopped trembling gradually. Tengjiao, you don't know anything. I know. If you kill me, it's meaningless to live on. So, I have to kill you. Tengjiao, We're brothers from the same mother. You can go in peace. You can fight for a chance to live for me. You can die with a smile. Chu Tengjiao looked at his elder brother blankly. His eyes were dilated. Finally, he closed his eyes. Before he died, he only spat out 2 words, "Hey." With a swoosh, Chu Tenghu pulled the blood-stained sword out of his brother's mouth. Seeing the blood dripping down, his body trembled again. He turned around and looked at Yi Wubo, 13th Master. "Do you mean what you said?" Yi Wubo looked at him faintly. He laughed weirdly. "Now, even if I don't mean what I said, you can't do anything about it. So, if you want to live, you can only trust me. Now, kill Chu Feilong for me." Chu Tenghu roared towards the sky. He gritted his teeth and panted heavily. "I want to live. I believe you. Believe me. Then I'll kill your father." Yi Wubo's eyes were cold. Chu Tenghu trembled. He turned around blankly. He lifted up the blood-stained sword slowly and pointed it at Chu Feilong. "Father, please forgive me." Chu Feilong only felt that his breath was stuck in his mouth. He was so angry that he couldn't say anything. You, cough cough cough." He coughed violently as he was moved. Chu Tenghu stepped on the blood on the ground. That was the blood of his father and younger brother. He walked over step by step. "Father, I have no choice. I want to live. Please help me. You're blind anyway." Chu Feilong cried loudly. "Retribution, retribution. I regret it so much. I regret it so much. I regret it so much." At this moment, he recalled the time when he framed his elder brother and caused his elder brother to be separated from his wife. His elder brother had suspected him for a long time. But every time his elder brother saw him, his elder brother's eyes were filled with pain. He recalled that he colluded with outsiders and caused his father to be poisoned. When his father was dying, his father's eyes were filled with pain as he looked at him. Then, he felt the pain in his heart now. Chu Feilong was disheartened. Chu Tenghu stood in front of his father. His face changed continuously and became more and more ferocious. Suddenly, he roared, "Father, I'll send you on your way. Have a safe journey." He lifted the sword and stabbed it down. It stabbed deeply into Chu Feilong's mouth. His heart. Chu Feilong didn't even have the slightest intention of struggling or dodging. As he felt the coldness of the sword piercing into his chest, a sad smile appeared on his face. He sighed deeply and said, "As a person, I can't lose my conscience. There will really be retribution. Now, I really believe that." In his mind, he recalled the way his father had looked at him back then. "Feilong, tell me honestly. Did you do something to your big brother?" "No. Father, why would I do such a thing? That's a serious crime of killing one's own kin. Father, I really don't know where to start from." "Are you sure?" "It's really not. Father, I swear that if I did this, I'll die under the sword of my own son." Chu Feilong's mind quickly replayed the past. He didn't know why, but he didn't remember anything at this moment. He only remembered this scene. Then, he sighed. He wanted to say, "Heaven really has eyes. Retribution," but he couldn't say it. His throat made gurgling sounds, and he finally took his last breath. His body trembled, and there was no sound. Chu Tenghu's body trembled, and his sword fell to the ground. He turned around and revealed a flattering smile. 13th Master, can I leave now?" Yi Wubo looked at him, and the ghostly fire in his eyes flickered. He said, "You can leave now." Chu Tenghu said, "Thank you." He didn't even look at the corpses of his father and brother. He turned around and left. Yi Wubo looked at his back and said, "Chu Tenghu, you're very dangerous. You're also a talent. If you cooperate with me, I'll be at ease. Furthermore, I can give you something that your father didn't even get before he died." Yi Wubo actually proposed to recruit Chu Tenghu at this moment, but his eyes flickered with killing intent and scruples. Obviously, Chu Tenghu's cruelty and viciousness, and Yen's unscrupulous behavior made this 13th Master of the Yi clan feel danger. Second update. I continue to write. Third update. Begging for votes. Chapter 825. People like Chu Tenghu no longer had any humanity. He was like a viper through and through. Anyone who saw him would shudder with fear. Holy Hall, but Chu Tunghu paused and immediately turned around. He knelt down and said, I'm willing to serve you, 13th Master. Yi Wubu's eyes were filled with more scruples. He said, Are you sincere? Chu Tunghu said, Yes. This humble one is willing to be at 13th Master's beck and call. Why? Life is nothing more than power and beauty. There are many things that others can't give you. You need to fight for it yourself. To work hard. And now, since 13th Master has given me this opportunity, I'll never let it go. Chu Tunghu said. I'm your father's murderer. Yi Wubu stared at him coldly. I killed my father, Chu Tunghu said. Yi Wubu stared at him for a while. Then, he waved his hand and said, You can go. Chu Tunghu kowtowed respectfully and said, I'll be waiting for 13th Master's orders anytime and anywhere. Then, he retreated. Looking at Chu Tunghu's back, the elder with a goatee said, 13th Master, are you letting him go just like that? Yes, Yi Wubu looked at the direction where Chu Tunghu left. This little is too dangerous. The elder with a goatee shivered. There was a kind of coldness that came from the bottom of his heart. He killed his own father and younger brother just like that. This little one is a talent. If he can survive for a long time in the future, he'll definitely be an ambitious and ruthless person. Yi Wubu said heavily, he was just an idiot in the past. But today, he's really become an ambitious and ruthless person. It's a pity to kill such a talent. But 13th Master, after all, you're his father's murderer. The elder with a goatee said. In such a person's heart, there's no such thing as his father's murderer. Yi Wubu said coldly, if one day, he's fully fledged and his strength surpasses mine, then he'll lay his hands on me without hesitation. But before his wings are fully grown, he will be more obedient than a dog in front of me. Yi Wubu's eyes flashed with sinister light. If this little one is used well, he'll be a mad dog. And an extremely obedient mad dog at that. This mad dog is more useful than Chu Feilong. Yi Wubu said solemnly. The elder with the goatee hesitated for a while and finally said, 13th Master, I feel that Chu Feilong's matter isn't so simple. Yi Wubu said, Oh? The goatee hesitated. At that time, we were all furious. 13th Master, you too, but we didn't give Chu Feilong a chance to defend himself from the start, we just let him die like that. Now that I think about it, it's a little thoughtless. Yi Wubu frowned and started to ponder. If Chu Feilong is really guilty, why would he let his son lure Chu Yang here? The elder with the goatee said, I don't understand this point. Are you saying that I believed only one side of the story? Yi Wubu asked slowly. Now that he was furious, his heart seemed to be a little empty. Yi Wubu's anger and shame had also come to an end with Chu Feilong's death. His mind gradually became more flexible, and he muttered, Indeed, there seems to be something wrong. As he spoke, he carefully thought about it and said slowly, Under the triple soul-seizing technique, will there be any lies? This was a question that no one could answer. Because only the direct descendants of the Yi clan could cultivate the triple soul-seizing technique. Although the other 4 people knew that this technique was very powerful, they didn't know how powerful it was. Yi Wubu pondered for a while and said, Our Yi clan has been established for thousands of years. The triple soul-seizing technique has always been a powerful weapon. It's always foolproof. How can there be a mistake? There's no mistake. Yi Wubu's eyes turned sharp. He looked at the elder with the goatee and suddenly said sternly, It's already a big mistake for you to have such thoughts and suspect my technique. Although Yi Wubu was clever, he was headstrong and self-opinionated. At this moment, the doubts in his heart were completely covered by his strong self-confidence. So, another person said, This matter is really done by the Xiao clan. Old Third Ma was really killed by 7th Master Xiao? Yi Wubu said coldly, Besides 7th Master Xiao, that bastard, is there a second Sword Emperor in the entire southeast region? The elder thought, 7th Master Xiao isn't the only Sword Emperor in the Xiao clan. It seems that there are a few elders in the Xiao clan whose cultivation is higher than 7th Master Xiao's. They are all Sword Emperors. Net, but he was reprimanded for his suspicion just now. If he were to say it now, he would probably suffer even more. So, he could only swallow it down. Then, How should we deal with this Chu Yang? Another person pointed at Chu Yang, who was lying on the table silently. Kill him. Yi Wubo didn't even blink. Yes, the elder with the long face answered and was about to take action. After being reprimanded just now, of course, he had to perform well now. Kill. Aren't you too ruthless? A voice sounded. Yi Wubo, are you going to exterminate the Chu clan here? His voice was not loud, but the 5 members of the Yi family in the room felt dizzy at the same time. Obviously, the cultivation of this person was already shockingly high. He was definitely a martial saint. Yi Wubo's pupils shrank and he shouted, "Who is it?" The door opened with a creak. 2 people stood at the door. The one in front was an elder with a white face and no beard. His face was like a piece of stiff iron. He had a square face, a straight nose and a square mouth. He looked dignified without being angry. Once he stood at the door, he naturally had a decisive and incorruptible posture. This person was said to be an elder, but his hair was black, his face was white and his skin was smooth. He was more like a middle-aged man. Behind him was the commander of the law enforcement hall, Sho Xinliang. Han Xiaoran's gaze was calm. With his hands behind his back, he walked in slowly. Sho Xinliang followed closely behind him. Yi Wubo's pupils shrank suddenly. His eyes revealed scruples and puzzlement. It turns out that Law Enforcement Master Han has come personally. Yi 13th is really unexpected. When he said this, the 4 guards' bodies trembled. It turns out to be him, the leader of the law enforcement officers in the southeast region of the upper 3 heavens, Han Xiaoran. No wonder Yi Wubo also addressed himself as Yi 13th. If it was in the past, Yi Wubo would be angry if someone mentioned this name. Well, Yi Wubo, you came to the southeast region to kill people? Han Xiaoran walked in slowly. Wherever he passed, the corpses and blood on the ground would automatically separate, revealing the smooth ground. He snorted coldly and sneered, "How dare you? Have you told me that you killed people in the southeast region?" Yi Wubo smiled apologetically, "Law Enforcement Master, this is a big hat. I can't bear it." Han Xiaoran flicked his sleeves. "Then how do you explain the 2 people on the ground?" Yi Wubo laughed. "Law Enforcement Master must have heard it just now. These 2 people are my men, but they betrayed me. I'm just punishing traitors. It has nothing to do with killing people." He smiled and said, "If I knew that Law Enforcement Master was just next door, I wouldn't be so rash." Punishing traitors? Han Xiaoran's face was cold and hard. He pointed at Chu Yang. "This young man is also your traitor?" Yi Wubo said straightforwardly, "That's not the case. Since the Law Enforcement Master has stepped forward, I'll let him go." "Just let him go." Han Xiaoran frowned. Yi Wubo muttered in his heart, "What exactly does this Han Xiaoran want to do? Why does he look like he's unwilling to let him go?" But no matter what, he wouldn't dare to act rashly when he met Han Xiaoran in the southeast region. Yi Wubo was very clear that even though he was a member of the Yi clan, and this identity was extremely respected, even the other law enforcement masters in the world region had to be wary of the Yi clan's power when they met him. But Han Xiaoran was a special case. When Han Xiaoran wanted to kill someone, he never looked at the clan or power, but only looked at the crime. If he thought that someone should be killed, not to mention that he was the 13th prince of the Yi clan, even if his elder brother, who was the clan master, was here, this Han Xiaoran would still kill him. This guy was a one-track-minded person. That was why Yi Wubo behaved very honestly. Because as long as Han Xiaoran gave an order, even if he could leave this place alive, he wouldn't be able to fly out of the southeast region. Then, Law Enforcement Master means. Yi Wubo swallowed his anger and said, "You've killed someone here. You have to give me an explanation." Han Xiaoran said faintly, but firmly, "And, you've killed a member of the Chu clan. Although the Chu clan is only a small clan, it's also a power that's protected by the law enforcement officers. What right do you have to kill him? You've lured others to be spies, and killed them once the matter was exposed. How dare you talk about punishing a traitor?" Han Xiaoran looked at Yi Wubo coldly. 13th Prince Yi, I think it's better for you to follow me back and go through a trial." Go through a trial? Yi Wubo was in a dilemma. If the 13th master of the Yi clan was caught by the law enforcement officers and went through a trial, it would be a big joke. How would he have the face to meet others in the future? Then, I'll compensate you for your loss. Yi Wubo gritted his teeth and said, I'll do whatever you say. As long as you can give us a way out and give the Yi clan some face today. 10,000 purple crystals, Han Xiaoran said faintly. No problem. Yi Wubo agreed readily. Yi Wubo knew that since Han Xiaoran had stated the price, even if he hesitated for a moment, he would have to go through a trial. So, he agreed without any hesitation, I'll send 10,000 purple crystals to the law enforcement hall later. Good. Han Xiaoran said, Xin Liang, send 5,000 purple crystals to the Chu clan when the purple crystals arrive. Sho Xinliang bowed and said, Yes, sir. Han Xiaoran turned his head and looked at Yi Wubo. I'll settle this matter with the Chu clan for you. You can leave now. Yi Wubo scolded in his heart. What can happen to the Chu clan? Even if the Chu clan knows about it, will they dare to settle accounts with the Yi clan? They actually need you to settle it, but on the surface, he said respectfully, since that's the case, I'll have to trouble you. I'll repay your great kindness in the future. The 4 people from the Yi clan heaved a sigh of relief at the same time. They bade farewell to Han Xiaoran and walked out in a single file. They were like a group of roosters who had lost a fight. Seeing that they had walked away, Han Xiaoran patted Chu Yang's shoulder. Why are you still pretending? They've all left. Third update. Begging for monthly votes. My monthly votes are getting further and further away. I'm very sad. Chapter 826. Chu Yang raised his head slowly. Han Xiaoran's face turned serious when he saw Chu Yang. Saint Hall Chu Yang's face was a little pale, as if he had just woken up from a nightmare. He forced a smile and said, Elder brother, you've come in time. Han Xiaoran sighed softly. Do you feel upset? Chu Yang smiled bitterly and nodded. Yes. The 3 of them all deserved to die. It's not that I haven't killed anyone before, and this time, it's for revenge. But, seeing them die in front of me like this, I still don't feel good in my heart. Han Xiaoran smiled understandingly and said, I understand this feeling. The reason why you feel upset is because you are still a human, and not a heartless beast like Chu Tonghu. Chu Yang smiled bitterly and said, I thought that I'm a heartless killer who treats my enemies like pigs and dogs. But I didn't expect that I'm really not. Han Xiaoran was silent for a while and said, Actually, everyone treats human lives like grass and is indifferent and heartless. Everyone treats all living things as nothing, and is absolutely heartless and selfish. It's just like the world we live in. Every day, hundreds of thousands or even millions of people will die, and those people's deaths are just a number in our eyes, and in everyone's eyes. What can they do? But once the people around you have an accident, or are killed or die of illness, you'll feel upset for years. This is simply human nature. Chu Feilong has been dealing with your father by hook or by crook for so many years. But, as long as your surname is Chu, no matter whether you return to your clan or not, you'll feel very strange and subtle when you face him. This has nothing to do with hatred. This is kinship, Han Xiaoran said. Kinship. Chu Yang wanted to sneer, but he couldn't. He said, What kinship can I have with Chu Feilong? This kinship comes from blood. Just because you think there isn't, it doesn't mean that there isn't. Han Xiaoran laughed and said, Blood ties are a very wonderful thing. Because your surname is Chu. Chu Yang pondered and said, Do you mean? I understand now. Han Xiaoran looked at him with a smile. Oh? Chu Yang chuckled and said, Actually, Chu Feilong and I are like this. As long as he's alive, I'll do everything I can to kill him. But after killing him, I didn't feel good because no matter how bad he was still my grandfather's son and my father's brother from the same mother. This is kinship. Han Xiaoran placed his warm palm on Chu Yang's shoulder and said, That's right. Although it's a roundabout way of thinking, it's still true kinship. The reason why you're upset isn't because of Chu Feilong. It's because he is your uncle. This was something that would never change, be it life or death or enmity. As long as kinship exists, then no matter how much he betrays and hurts you, this kinship will not disappear. It will only change from warmth to pain, just like the pain you are in now. Chu Yang nodded. He had a feeling of enlightenment. Han Xiaoran said deeply, kinship, haha, even Chu Feilong's kinship isn't much worse than anyone else's. Before he died, the only thing on his mind was the safety of his son. Isn't this kinship? Chu Yang sighed deeply. Han Xiaoran said, I've been a law enforcer for many years. Every evil person that I've killed deserves to die 10 times. But, do you know, as long as they have family members, everyone will be extremely sentimental towards their family members. Before they died, they would beg me to arrange for their family members after knowing that they have no hope of surviving. How can kinship change because of good and evil? Chu Yang felt the same way and said, that's right. Kind people have love in their hearts. Evil people's hearts aren't just a piece of desert. That's right. What you said is very reasonable. So, after I kill them, I'll only confiscate 80% of their property. As for the remaining 20%, no matter how much it is, I'll leave it for their family members. Han Xiaoran sighed, if there's no pity or reverence in law enforcement, it's just a privilege. Chu Yang said from the bottom of his heart, elder brother's law enforcement is really full of pity and benevolence. Han Xiaoran smiled with a clear conscience. This is the biggest reason why I feel that I have a clear conscience. Chu Yang smiled. Net, let me tell you a story, Han Xiaoran said with a smile. Okay. Chu Yang knew that anything that came out of the mouth of such an expert would be filled with a different charm or state of mind. Often, it would have a profound meaning. Since Han Xiaoran told him this at this moment, he must have his own intentions. There was once a third-grade monarch-level expert. I won't say his name here. Han Xiaoran recalled, he was obsessed with martial arts and neglected his newly married wife, causing her to have an affair with his best friend. This caused his temperament to change greatly, and he became extremely vicious from then on. He killed his best friend and imprisoned his wife for 10 years. For 10 years, he didn't even let his wife die, not even if she died of illness. He just kept her imprisoned. In the end, he fell into my hands. Do you know what his last request was before he died? Chu Yang asked. What? Han Xiaoran let out a long sigh. Before he died, he begged me to let his wife go and give all his wealth to his wife. Then, he asked me to ask for forgiveness from his wife. He said that he had let her down in his life. Han Xiaoran smiled bitterly. Tell me, is this man too spineless, too hateful, too pitiful, too humiliating, too vicious, and too heartless? Chu Yang smiled bitterly. This question was really not easy to answer. This man imprisoned his wife for 10 years, and he could be said to be vicious. But his life was also ruined because of this matter, and he could be said to be pitiful. He actually asked for forgiveness from the woman who betrayed him before he died, and it was simply humiliating. But who would know the pain of such a man in his life? If he didn't love his wife, why would he imprison her for 10 years? Wouldn't it be neat to kill her with one strike? He didn't kill her because of love. If he didn't hate his wife, why would he imprison her for 10 years? Imprisonment was also because of hate. Who could differentiate between love and hate? Chu Yang mulled over this story. This ordinary and even somewhat sorrowful story was filled with a kind of inexplicable feeling. This was the binding of love and hate. It really made one's mood depressed. But, it also made one sigh sadly. This man can't let go, Chu Yang sighed. Let go. Can't let go. Han Xiaoran let out a deep roar. His voice was like thunder in this narrow space filled with the smell of blood. Chu Yang's whole body shook, and he suddenly felt as if he was enlightened. A cool feeling poured down from his head, and he said, yes. The key is to let go. I can accept it. When it's time to let go, let go. Han Xiaoran smiled cheerfully. If you can't let go, it's painful. If you let go, you'll be at ease. Actually, whether you let go or not, depends on whether you're willing to torture yourself. Do you want to torture yourself? Yes, when it's time to let go, let go. Chu Yang laughed heartily. He only felt that his mood was very good, and he was very happy. Am I, Chu Yang, such a stupid person who tortures himself? Han Xiaoran also laughed happily. Seeing that Chu Yang had let go of the knot in his heart, he finally felt relieved. He laughed and said, yes, just because you said to let go, it's really good. Since you're not a stupid person, Then let's go. I'll accompany you to drink. Then, the corpse. Chu Yang was a little hesitant. He was thinking about how the clan would react if he sent the corpse back. It's not suitable for you to go home now. Han Xiaoran said, if you bring the corpse back home now, then no matter how innocent you are, it'll be a huge blow to your clan. I'll help you settle this matter, Han Xiaoran said. Sho Xinliang will handle it and send the corpse back. No matter how unwilling and uncomfortable you are tonight, you can't go back. He smiled, with me here, you can't go back either. Then how do you conclude this matter for the clan? Chu Yang asked. Killed by Yi Wubua from the Yi clan, Han Xiaoran said, this matter has nothing to do with you. Chu Yang smiled bitterly, elder brother, you've broken the law for me this time, and you've even given false testimony. Han Xiaoran smiled, not only that, I've also helped the Avildor. Chu Yang was puzzled. Bring him in. Han Xiaoran turned back and shouted softly. Qin Baoshan, who hadn't appeared all this time, strode in. In his hand, he was carrying a person who looked like a dead dog. Qin Baoshan turned his hand, and the person in his hand turned around. His eyes were tightly closed, and he had obviously fainted. Chu Tenghu. It turned out that Qin Baoshan hadn't appeared all this time because he had gone to chase after Chu Tenghu. Chu Yang's eyes emitted a cold and sharp light. Murderous intent surged from his heart. Chu Yang had long made up his mind to never let this cruel, vicious, and shameless Chu Tenghu, who killed his father and brother, live. Now that he saw Chu Tenghu appear in front of him, he couldn't contain his anger anymore. If little brother can't bear to kill him, I can do it for you. Han Xiaoran laughed. Of course, if little brother wants to keep him alive, you can too. No need. Chu Yang raised his eyebrows. He clenched his teeth and said, I may be a little touched when dealing with human beings. And, I may feel a little disappointed even if I kill them. But, wouldn't I be letting down my conscience if I don't kill these beasts that are even worse than pigs and dogs? Qin Baoshan shouted, Little brother, you're right. Catch him. He shook his hand and threw Chu Tenghu over. With a thud, Chu Tenghu fell to the ground. But at the same time, he regained consciousness. When he opened his eyes and saw Chu Yang, he couldn't help but tremble. Chu Yang? Chu Yang looked at him coldly. Then, he lifted the blood-stained sword with the tip of his foot. A cold light flashed in his hand. The sword was stained with Chu Feilong's blood, Chu Tengjiao's blood. Blood flashed. Chu Tenghu was extremely shocked, big, but before he finished his words, Chu Yang's sword had already pierced into his throat without any hesitation. Chu Yang didn't even let him finish calling him Big Brother, because he felt that if this beast called him Big Brother again, he would be so disgusted that he would vomit on the spot. Chapter 827. As Sho Xinliang and Qin Baoshan led people to send the corpses of Chu Feilong and the other two back to the Chu clan, the peaceful courtyard of the Chu clan was suddenly in chaos. No one expected that Chu Feilong and his father would be sent back with 3 corpses when they went out at the same time. Chu Feilong's wife spat out blood and fainted on the spot. Chu Feiling, Chu Feiyan, and the others rushed to the hall. The cries of the Chu clan were loud. Old Master Chu Xiongqing only wore clothes and ran out barefooted. Seeing the corpses of his sons and grandsons, the old master burst into tears. It was really unbearable for a white-haired person to send off a black-haired person. Although Chu Feiling was prejudiced against Chu Feilong, he couldn't help but feel sad when he saw the corpses of his brothers in front of him. What's going on? The old master's eyes were filled with tears. He shouted, Where did Feilong go today? How did he die? How did he die just like that? His voice was hoarse by the time he finished speaking. Everyone looked at each other, but they didn't know what Chu Feilong was busy with these 2 days. Tengyun, Chu Xiongqing shouted, Do you know? Chu Tengyun was crying loudly on his father's corpse. Hearing his grandfather's question, he suppressed his sadness and said, Father has been leaving early and returning late these few days. And, yesterday afternoon, I heard that father arranged for 2 brothers to invite Brother Chu Yang to a banquet at the Lingyun Pavilion. Chu Yang? Chu Xiongqing's body shook and he took a step back. His face was pale, as if he had suddenly aged a few years. Yang? Chu Feiling raised his head and was shocked. Yes. Chu Tungyun said, I heard that father had a good relationship with Yi Wubo from the Yi clan, so he asked two brothers to lure big brother over. I was afraid that big brother would be in trouble, so I specially went over with brother Tungkong to remind big brother. Chu Xiongqing looked at Chu Tungkong and Chu Tungxiao, and both of them nodded. Chu Xiongqing straightened back, instantly bent down. His heart was filled with grief and indignation, yet there was nothing he could do about it. Although Chu Tungyun didn't say it clearly, Chu Xiongqing had guessed it. Chu Feilong must have colluded with Yi Wubo and wanted to borrow Yi Wubo's power to get rid of Chu Yang. But somehow, he and his two brothers were killed. Since that was the case, then this matter obviously had something to do with Chu Yang. Chu Xiongqing recalled that when Chu Feilong got into trouble back then, there were also people from the Yi clan who were active in this area. Last year, when he was seriously injured, it was Yi Wubo who led the Yi clan to retreat suddenly, causing him to be poisoned. All these showed that Chu Feilong and Yi Wubo had long colluded with each other. Chu Xiongqing felt as if his heart was being cut by a knife. He didn't know what to say. Where's your big brother? Where's Chu Yang? Why didn't he come back? Chu Feilong asked anxiously, who sent the corpse back? It was sent back by Commander Shaw. Chu Tungyun lowered his head and said, Commander Shaw is currently outside the hall. Chu Xiongqing didn't say a word and strode out. He only stopped when he was in front of Shaw Xinliang. Commander Shaw, this matter, what exactly is going on? Chu Xiongqing suppressed the sadness in his heart and asked in a deep voice. Shaw Xinliang sighed and said, Second Master Chu fought with someone in Lingyun Pavilion, and was, who is it? Chu Xiongqing's eyes were burning. Shaw Xinliang wanted to say something but stopped. Chu Xiongqing's face suddenly turned pale and he said, could it be Chu Yang? Why would Clan Master Chu think so? Shaw Xinliang said in astonishment, the other party is powerful, and there are many inside stories about this matter. It's inconvenient for me to say it directly. Chu Xiongqing pulled Shaw Xinliang and walked a few steps forward. He bowed deeply and said, Commander Shaw, please speak out for me. Shaw Xinliang sighed and said, when the incident happened, we were in Lingyun Pavilion. Commander Shaw Fa of the Southeast Region, Commander Han Xiaoran, had just arrived at Flat Mountain Ridge recently. Brother Qin and I were welcoming Commander Han Xiaoran. Reply to the first floor 2012-07-3016, 58 report, let me say something too. Tiebar Carmen Wheel, even if heaven is heartless, it will live forever. Marshal King 8-inch Commander Han Xiaoran was also there at that time. Chu Xiongqing was shocked. Although he was there, he saw what happened clearly, Shaw Xinliang said. I'd like to hear the details. Chu Xiongqing's face became serious. Han Xiaoran was also there, but he didn't stop it. This was enough to show how complicated this matter was. At this point, Chu Xiongqing wouldn't doubt Chu Yang at all. With Han Xiaoran's presence, how would he protect anyone with his temper? It seems that Second Master Chu was originally Yi Wubo's subordinate. Shaw Xinliang's words made Chu Xiongqing's face change. It seems that Second Master Chu had done something during this period of time, which made Yi Wubo unhappy. Then, Yi Wubo lost his men. Second Master Chu blamed it on your grandson, Chu Yang. So, Yi Wubo requested to meet Chu Yang, and the meeting time was tonight, Shaw Xinliang said. After Chu Yang arrived, Yi Wubo realized that Chu Yang had no cultivation. After confirming that Chu Yang had no cultivation, he flew into a rage. He believed that Second Master Chu had deceived him and instantly turned hostile. Then, Shaw Xinliang recounted the situation at that time, including every word that Yi Wubo said. Then, he sighed and said, we were next door at that time, but Commander Shaw Fa didn't do anything. He said at that time, what's the point of saving such a disloyal and unfilial person who killed his father and brother? As for his two sons, they killed each other in order to survive. They're even worse than beast. Saving them was a dirty move. Chu Xiongqing sighed and looked up to the sky, speechless. Shaw Xinliang's narration of Yi Wubo's words dispelled the last bit of hope in Chu Xiongqing's heart. It turned out that the tragedy of his eldest son, Chu Feilong, being separated from his flesh and blood was caused by Chu Feilong. Chu Feilong was also the one who caused the sudden misfortune of the clan's few capable stewards. Chu Xiongqing's poison was actually caused by his own son. Chu Xiongqing looked up to the sky and sighed. He could completely understand the meaning of Han Xiaoran's words. What's the point of saving such a person? If he were Han Xiaoran, he would definitely not do anything. In the end, when Commander Shao Fa saw that Yi Wubo was going to lay his hands on Chu Yang again, the two of us begged him to save divine Dr. Chu. Sho Xinliang sighed. There's something that Clan Master Chu may not know. My chronic illness was cured by your grandson, Chu Yang. So, I have always had a good impression of Duke Chu Yang, and have taken care of him before. This sentence also revealed Chu Xiongqing's long-standing doubts. Although Commander Shao Fa sent the two of us to send the corpse back to the Chu clan, he also asked us to pass a message to you, Sho Xinliang said. Head Enforcer Lord Fa has a message for me. What message? Chu Xiongqing vaguely guessed, but still asked. It's fine, if you don't take revenge. If you don't want to take revenge, you can take it slowly, Sho Xinliang said. Thank you, Commander Shao Fa. Chu Xiongqing looked up to the sky and sighed. At this moment, he seemed to have aged suddenly. Han Xiaoran's words were very clear. Can you afford to offend the Yi clan? Moreover, is it worth it to offend a strong enemy who can easily destroy the entire clan for such a person who's even worse than an animal? Your grandson has been hit by the Yi clan's triple soul-snatching technique. Commander Shao Fa is treating him personally. Once there's any improvement, we'll send someone to send him back. Clan Master Chu, you don't have to worry. Sho Xinliang and Chu Xiongqing took their leave. Chu Xiongqing stood in the courtyard for a long time, as if he was a wooden sculpture. Hearing the cries behind him, he felt helpless, sad and lonely from his body to the bottom of his heart. Little brother, actually, there's something I don't understand. Han Xiaoran sat opposite Chu Yang, drank a cup of wine, and said with a smile, You've spent so much effort and used all means to get rid of Chu Feilong through Yi Wubo. It's all because you don't want your hands to be stained with the karma of your relatives. But why did you suddenly take action and kill Chu Tonghu in the end? Chu Yang smiled faintly, nothing. But at that time, I just felt that this bastard must die in my hand. If he died in someone else's hands, firstly, it's not enough to vent my hatred. Secondly, it's too easy for him. Han Xiaoran smiled. Thirdly, it's also because this person is too dangerous. It's too risky to leave him alive. You don't feel assured to let others kill him, right? Chu Yang shook his head and laughed. Elder brother, you're underestimating me. No matter how dangerous Chu Tonghu is, how can he be compared to Yi Wubo? Reply 8, keep reply 2 ND floor, the 30th of July, 2012, 1658 report, permanent petite bourgeoisie, front row report, the 30th of July, 2012, 5 p.m. reply permanent petite bourgeoisie, front row report, the 30th of July, 2012, 5 p.m. reply the only Xiao Yang in this bar, 3 report, the 30th of July, 2012, 1703 reply only Xiao Yang, begging for fans report, the 30th of July, 2012, 1703 reply Saint Extreme Master, front row report, the 30th of July, 2012, 1704 reply remnant dream Xiaotian _ squeezing report, the 30th of July, 2012, 1704 reply Uyo, when a diver enters the water. What's his hand movement? Report, the 30th of July, 2012, 1707 reply only Xiao Yang. Report, the 30th of July, 2012, 1708 reply I'll say something too. There are 3 more replies. Click to view. Tiebar Carmen Wheel even if heaven is heartless, we'll live forever. Marshal King. 8 Han Xiaoran nodded, from your words, you don't intend to let Yi Wubo off? Of course. Chu Yang raised his eyebrows. Yi Wubo is the main culprit. How can I let him off so easily? Dealing with Yi Wubo isn't a small matter. Han Xiaoran reminded solemnly, you need to have absolute confidence to kill him in one strike. Otherwise, you'd rather let him off and find another chance in the future. You mustn't act rashly. Your Chu clan is really not enough for Yi Wubo to deal with. Chu Yang smiled deeply, I know what I'm doing. Yi Wubo isn't Chu Feilong. I've long heard of the Yi clan behind him. Han Xiaoran nodded heavily. Then, he seemed to ask intentionally, little brother, your spiritual fluctuation is normal. Even when you're using the triple soul-snatching technique, there's no abnormality. This is really strange. Chu Yang was shocked. He knew that Han Xiaoran was a little suspicious. He said meaningfully, I'm the inheritor of the medicine fairy. Doctors attach the most importance to the inheritance of the divine spirit. Han Xiaoran suddenly realized and said, it turns out that you've obtained the inheritance of the divine spirit. Chu Yang smiled and nodded, elder brother, please keep it a secret. This is my greatest reliance. Han Xiaoran smiled and said, of course. Then, he sighed, no wonder your medical skills are so superb. No wonder. It turns out that you've obtained the inheritance of the divine spirit that's rarely seen in thousands of years. There was admiration and gratification in his voice. Chu Yang raised his eyebrows and lowered his voice. He winked and said, actually, Shuo Xinliang seemed to have used this method to interrogate me before. I used it as a pretext to scold him and sprayed saliva all over his bald head. Phut! Ha ha ha! Han Xiaoran suddenly choked and spat out a mouthful of wine. Then, he laughed and pointed at Chu Yang with his trembling finger. You're small, ha ha ha. You're small, ha 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 ha. As he laughed, he shook his head. You're too mean. Chu Yang spread out his hands innocently and said, I can't do anything about it. If I had shown it at that time, I'm afraid I would have been torn apart by Brother Shuo. Shuo Xinliang really made me have a stomachache. Han Xiaoran still couldn't help but laugh when he thought of it. He winked and said, how did you scold him then? Quickly tell me, let me have some more fun. Chapter 828. Chu Yang was stunned. Chu Yang didn't expect this strict and impartial law enforcement master to have such a gloating and gossipy side. At this moment, Shuo Xinliang and Qin Baoshan finally arrived. They heard Han Xiaoran's laughter from afar. Shuo Xinliang walked over with his shiny bald head and said, Law enforcement master is so happy. You must have encountered something good. But what is it? Can you let me have some fun too? Puff, puff. Chu Yang and Han Xiaoran spat out a mouthful of wine at the same time. Then they coughed and laughed at the same time. Sho Xinliang's bald head was instantly covered with sweat. Sho Xinliang wiped his head awkwardly. Although he was depressed, he didn't dare to flare up. He said, "This is really. It's rare for law enforcement master to be in such a good mood." Han Xiaoran stopped laughing and said, "I'm talking to Brother Chu about how you interrogated him that day." Hearing this, Sho Xinliang suddenly remembered. Instantly, anger rose from his heart, and hatred rose from his guts. New and old hatred surged into his heart. He jumped up, grabbed Chu Yang's lapel and roared, "Good. If law enforcement master didn't mention it, I wouldn't have remembered it. Now I finally remember. You little bastard. You. He roared furiously. "How come nothing happened to you after Yi Wubua's 3 stages of soul seizing this time? Last time, you actually pulled my collar and scolded me for half a minute." Chu Yang's face turned red. Cough cough. Cough cough. Cough cough. "You let go of me first." Sho Xinliang's face turned red. "No, you have to give me an explanation first." Chu Yang stuck out his tongue and had difficulty breathing. Suddenly, he saw Sho Xinliang's shiny bald head and couldn't help but laugh with difficulty. "Wasn't it?" "Ha ha ha ha." Sho Xinliang widened his eyes and panted heavily. "You have to give me an explanation today." "What explanation?" Han Xiaoran said majestically. "You were already planning to kill him at that time. How would he dare to tell you the truth? You didn't even think about how many of your lives were saved by this little brother. Furthermore, this little brother has uncovered the conspiracy this time, which is equivalent to saving millions of law enforcement officers in the southeast region. You actually have the nerve to say that." Sho Xinliang let go of his hand embarrassedly and laughed dryly. "I'm just joking with him." As he said, he glared at Chu Yang fiercely, waved his fist and said, "I'll settle accounts with you after the law enforcement master leave." As he said this, he couldn't help but laugh. Starter / Han Xiaoran then asked with great interest, "Sho Xinliang, what did he scold you for?" Sho Xinliang was dumbfounded and opened his mouth wide. Qin Baoshan couldn't help but laugh out loud. "I was there and saw everything. If law enforcement master is interested, I can explain everything to you in detail." Sho Xinliang was furious and glared at him. "You." Qin Baoshan wasn't afraid of him at all. He snorted disdainfully and began to narrate vividly. Before he even finished half of the story, Han Xiaoran was already convulsing with laughter. Sho Xinliang sat at one side angrily and drank cup after cup. In the end, even he was immersed in Qin Baoshan's story. He slapped his thigh and laughed heartily, as if the story was about someone else. The 4 of them talked for a while and laughed continuously. Seeing that it was almost midnight, Chu Yang said, "Elder brother, when are you leaving today?" Han Xiaoran's face turned serious and he said, "The Southeast Law Enforcement Hall has been invaded. We really can't delay any longer. If there's nothing else, I want to set off tomorrow afternoon and rush back to the law enforcement headquarters in the South region." Chu Yang nodded and said, "So, how do you plan to carry out this matter?" Han Xiaoran's face was gloomy and he said, "Just kill." Chu Yang said, "If you want to kill him, there's not enough evidence." Han Xiaoran laughed aloud. "Although elder brother seems too strict and impartial, I'm not an inflexible person. Since it's already confirmed, why do we need any evidence if we want to kill him? As for his accomplices, we'll start with Tong Wuxin and interrogate him with torture. There hasn't been a single person who can hold back and not speak under the thousands of punishments in the law enforcement hall since ancient times. This matter is very likely to involve the She clan. Elder brother, you must be very careful. Don't alert the enemy." Chu Yang exhorted. "After all, the She clan is one of the big clans. There are many martial saints in the clan. Elder brother, you can't do anything alone. You must be very careful." "I know." Han Xiaoran sighed. "It's a pity that there are too few trustworthy people on hand. Otherwise, it's no big deal to start a war." He paused and said to Qin Baoshan, "After I leave, you draft a document and report it to the Southeast headquarters. Let the Chu clan take over the transportation channel of the auction hall." He turned to Chu Yang and said, "Chu Feilong is already dead. There shouldn't be any problem, right?" This was undoubtedly a huge cake. If the Chu clan took over the transportation channel of the auction hall, the strength of the entire clan would be greatly improved. Chu Yang frowned and said, Chu Feilong is already dead. There shouldn't be any problem within the Chu clan. The problem is, all the goods of the auction hall are transported through blood pairs. If the Chu clan suddenly takes it over, we might offend the blood pairs and block their source of income. And the strength of the Chu clan is also a little weak now. Han Xiaoran smiled. This isn't a problem. Tomorrow morning, I'll personally go to the Chu clan and make an agreement with the clan master of Chu Xiongcheng. Also, the emblem of the law enforcement master of the southeast region will be flying on the caravan. I believe that in the whole southeast region, anyone who dares to rob will also have to think twice. Sho Xinliang said, "Little brother, the law enforcement master is right. Why are you still refusing such a good thing? Besides, with the emblem of the law enforcement master, even if something really happens, it has nothing to do with the Chu clan. It's a matter of the entire Southeast law enforcement officers. To put it bluntly, the people of the Chu clan are just running errands. That's all." Han Xiaoran's words were still a little reserved, but Sho Xinliang went straight to the bottom and revealed his bottom line. Han Xiaoran was unhappy and stared at Sho Xinliang fiercely. Sho Xinliang immediately shut his mouth. Chu Yang laughed and said, "Since there's such a good thing, even if you don't mention it, I'll still shamelessly stick to it." Han Xiaoran said, "Then, this matter is settled." Everyone nodded. Han Xiaoran turned to Sho Xinliang. "The law enforcement hall also needs to replenish some manpower. Once the situation is really chaotic, you need to become my last strength. Do you understand?" Sho Xinliang stood up suddenly. "I understand." Han Xiaoran said, "After I go back, I'll immediately send some men to give you a purple cloud pill. After you take it, use the fastest speed to raise your cultivation to the martial saint level. If one pill doesn't work, then take 2. And Qin Baoshan, you too. Raise your own strength as soon as possible so that you can have more power. By the way, filter the men I send strictly and select the reliable ones to form a sharp knife team." Sho Xinliang and Qin Baoshan agreed at the same time. Han Xiaoran sighed and said, "Currently, the only people I can trust here are the two of you. Don't let me down. If one day, I, Han Xiaoran, die in the hands of a despicable person, the two of you will be my last base, and also the last hope of the entire Southeast law enforcement officers." Sho Xinliang said excitedly, "Law enforcement master, don't worry. You'll definitely be fine." Han Xiaoran smiled and said, "The weather is unpredictable. Who can say whether the Qingming day will be a stormy wind or a stormy sea?" He said deeply, "The two of you have misdeeds, but you're upright. This is the most desirable point. Moreover, there's little brother here. If there's anything, you can discuss it with him. Although he's young, he's much more scheming than the two of you. Don't underestimate him just because he's young. Do you understand?" Sho Xinliang and Qin Baoshan stood upright and nodded repeatedly. Han Xiaoran thought for a while, took off a token from his waist and passed it to Chu Yang. "Little brother, there's a lot of undercurrents in the law enforcement officers now. Although your strength isn't weak, it's still too weak. So I don't dare to invite you to become a doctor in the law enforcement officers, for fear that I'll harm you. But you have my token. At times of crisis, you can take it out and say that you're the law enforcement doctor in the southeast region that I've personally appointed. Then, you'll be safe." Chu Yang took it over solemnly, but he felt that Han Xiaoran's words were a little dejected, as if he was entrusting his will to Chu Yang. Chu Yang couldn't help but ask, "Brother Han, don't you have the confidence to purge the southeast region this time?" Han Xiaoran smiled faintly and patted Chu Yang's shoulder. He said meaningfully, "If you're fully grown and come to help me, I'll have nothing to worry about." Chu Yang's face was solemn and he nodded. He seemed to have agreed to something. Han Xiaoran raised his wine cup and said, "There's one thing that I want to remind the three of you. If I, Han Xiaoran, die, then all your efforts will be for naught. Little brother, you must immediately destroy your token and cut ties with me. The Chu clan will immediately terminate the cooperation with the law enforcement auction hall. Do you understand? As long as I'm here, I can protect you. But if I'm not here one day, the crisis will come immediately." The three of them didn't know what to say, so they could only drink this cup of wine silently. Han Xiaoran said, I have a clear conscience in the southeast region. But if I'm not here one day. Sho Xinliang, you must also remember that law enforcement officers enforce the law, the supreme law of the heavenly layer. If the heart and the law are united, even if you kill millions of people, you'll have a clear conscience. Han Xiaoran held the wine cup in his hand, and his expression was a little melancholy and contemplative. He said sympathetically, the heavenly layer has always been about the rule of law, but this rule needs to be enforced by people. So there's never any rule of law. If a person is righteous, the law will be righteous. If a person is evil, the law will be evil. Whether a person is good or evil depends on his heart. As law enforcement officers, you and I must never let the supreme law of the heavenly layer become the plaything of power. You must remember this. Chapter 829. Sho Xinliang and Qin Baoshan stood upright and listened respectfully. Strange pop-up window Qubert Chuyang was silent, pondering over the meaning of Han Xiaoran's words. He had been trying his best to hide his cultivation, but Han Xiaoran said, although you're not weak, you're still a little weak. This sentence was enough to show that he couldn't hide his cultivation from Han Xiaoran. In other words, the current stage of the Thousand Phantom technique couldn't make Han Xiaoran misjudge him. Then Han Xiaoran said, I look forward to your success. This sentence was obviously looking forward to Chu Yang's influence, and not his martial arts cultivation. As long as the Chu clan's prestige and status rose, his reputation as a divine doctor would be able to complement the Chu clan's strength. Neither of them could be omitted. With the Chu clan's strength, even if the Chu clan was fully supported by Han Xiaoran for 100 years, it might not be able to catch his eye. With Chu Yang's medical skills, if he were to break into the world alone, he would either be captured or killed. It would be hopeless for him to stand out alone. So, only when the two complemented each other, could the Chu clan's strength rise like a rocket in a short period of time. It could achieve Han Xiaoran's goal. So, Han Xiaoran had made it clear that he was fully supporting the Chu clan. Chu Yang frowned and pondered. This also means that although Han Xiaoran downplayed the matter of the southeast region, it might not be so easy. Similarly, although he said it with a heavy heart, it wasn't that he lacked confidence. It was opportunity. Lack of opportunity, waiting for opportunity. Behind Tong Wuxin was one of the dominant clans, the She clan. Their strength was continuous and they occupied one half of the continent. How could they be easily humiliated? Han Xiaoran turned to look at Chu Yang. Seeing that Chu Yang was deep in thought and seemed to have understood something, Han Xiaoran's eyes revealed a look of approval. He knew that Chu Yang had more or less understood his meaning. You can't hide your cultivation from a martial saint. Do you understand? Han Xiaoran said lightly. Chu Yang raised his head in horror. Thank you for enlightening me. He thought, it seems that I need to cultivate the Thousand Phantom technique further. Han Xiaoran pondered for a while and said, both of you, during this period of time, do your own things well. While improving your strength, do your best to support the Chu clan and let the Chu clan grow stronger as soon as possible. The flat mountain ridge can't be monopolized by one force. It's best to unite them. He frowned slightly and said casually, what Liao family? Just ban them. Yes, Sho Xinliang and Qin Baoshan agreed at the same time. Han Xiaoran made it sound as if the two big clans were not worth mentioning. Sho Xinliang and Qin Baoshan also agreed as if it was absolutely natural. From this, it could be seen how powerful the law enforcement officers were. In this way, as long as the Chu clan can be successfully integrated in the shortest amount of time, its strength will be greatly improved. However, the unification and internal digestion after the integration is an extremely complicated matter. Little brother, do you have any good ideas? Han Xiaoran asked. That's all. Chu Yang sneered and said, how can we still have the time to use conciliatory methods to divide and influence them bit by bit? We can only use the most forceful method to unify them into a group. Those who obey me will prosper, and those who oppose me will perish. That's it. As for the future troubles, even if there are, there will be none after the thunderous methods are integrated. I really didn't misjudge you. Little brother, you're someone who can achieve great things. Han Xiaoran smiled with relief. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Chu Yang smiled faintly. Yes, and the purple cloud pills that I've given to Sho Xinliang and Qin Baoshan will be in danger if they take them. At that time, we need a brilliant doctor to take care of them. We mustn't let these two guys not only fail to improve their cultivation, but also explode into minced meat. That's not worth the loss. Han Xiaoran smiled slightly. Elder brother, don't worry. Chu Yang said solemnly, with me here, as long as the purple cloud pills really have that kind of effect, I guarantee that they'll advance to the martial saint level smoothly. That's good. Han Xiaoran was relieved. Little brother, your first sentence is better than any other guarantee. Sho Xinliang and Qin Baoshan were also relieved. The purple cloud pill was really the #1 treasure of the law enforcement hall. Back then, the third-generation Dharma Supreme was proficient in pharmacology. After thousands of years, he gathered countless rare medicines and wanted to refine the pill for his dying father to increase his cultivation and compete with heaven for his lifespan. Although he didn't succeed in the end, the prescription of this magical pill was passed down. After being modified by generations of Dharma Supreme, it was discovered that although this prescription couldn't increase one's lifespan, it could increase one's martial power. Moreover, it could increase one's cultivation by as much as 500 years. The only drawback was that the medicinal effect was too strong. Generally, after taking it, one would probably explode and die on the spot. And even if a monarch took it, there was a 100% risk of his body exploding. And once he reached the martial saint level, he wouldn't be able to use the medicinal effect to increase his cultivation. It was a magical pill, but also extremely poisonous. This pill was named the Purple Cloud Pill from then on. It became the top-secret medicine of the Law Enforcement Hall, and was also a great means to cultivate experts. When Sho Xinliang and Qin Baoshan heard about the Purple Cloud Pill, they were both happy and worried. Now that they heard Chu Yang's promise, they were slightly relieved. Little brother, when Yi Wubo from the Yi clan brings over 10,000 purple crystals, the Chu clan can keep 8,000 purple crystals. Han Xiaoran added 3,000 purple crystals from the original 5,000 purple crystals. Okay, Chu Yang didn't decline and agreed directly. These 8,000 purple crystals were what the Chu clan urgently needed at the moment. Since they wanted to expand their forces, how could they do it without purple crystals? Well, the integration and development of the Chu clan will be smooth in 4 months, right? Han Xiaoran asked. Chu Yang lowered his head and frowned. The time is too short, but it should be enough. That's good. Half a year later, on the 10th day of March next year, there will be a medicine banquet in the Zhuge clan. At that time, all the outstanding pharmacists from the big clans and law enforcement officers will go. All the seniors from the Medicine Valley will also go. Even the Dharma Supreme will send an MC. Little brother, if you want to stand out and make a name for yourself, that's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Han Xiaoran said solemnly. Chu Yang's eyes lit up. Medicine banquet? Han Xiaoran said, yes. At that time, it will not only be a competition between pharmacists, but also to determine the new generation's #1 pharmacist. Moreover, all kinds of exotic flowers and herbs will appear one by one there. That place is equivalent to a super big market and super big auction. Everything will be hosted by the headquarters of the law enforcement officers. To ensure that nothing goes wrong, the big clans will be there with sufficient financial resources, and everyone will take what they need. So, there will be people who will make a fortune, and there will also be people who will go bankrupt. Han Xiaoran's words had a deeper meaning. This is a good opportunity. Chu Yang squinted his eyes and started to daydream. For people with superb medical skills like you, it's indeed a great opportunity. Han Xiaoran said, you must know that even if you have medical skills but no medicine, you'll be greatly discounted. Especially, if you can make a name for yourself there, you'll immediately become popular. In heaven, as long as you're recognized by the Medicine Valley, you'll become the target of recruitment by the big clans. And with such a divine doctor, it'll be equivalent to having an excellent protective amulet. He smiled and looked at Chu Yang. Little brother, are you interested? Chu Yang said without hesitation, of course. I'm very interested. His voice was even a little excited. The sword spirit in Chu Yang's consciousness space was also so happy that his mouth cracked open. It seemed that a top-class banquet was about to unfold in front of him. Medicine banquet, haha. Chu Yang's tribulation sword hadn't had top-class medicine for a long time. As long as he entered that place and had enough financial resources, then, wouldn't tribulation sword be able to eat whatever he wanted? Moreover, even if he didn't have enough financial resources, wouldn't he have Han Xiaoran's help? To say the least, even if he didn't have the financial resources and Han Xiaoran's help, wouldn't he be able to steal from Tribulation Sword? Damn it, if he wanted to steal from Tribulation Sword, who could stop him? King of Hell Chu's imagination was running wild. If you're interested, come to the southeast headquarters to find me. I'll wait for you there and give you the identity of a member of the Law Enforcement Hall to follow me there. Han Xiaoran said. Chu Yang smiled and said, since you've already made up your mind, I'll naturally be happy to comply. Han Xiaoran smiled and said, today, we'll start to clean up the Chu clan and increase our strength. Then, your identity will definitely be exposed. So, when the time comes, not only will I provide you with an identity, I'll also change your appearance. I hope you'll be prepared early. Chu Yang said, I know. If there's a top pharmacist in the world in the Chu clan now, I'm afraid the Chu clan will disappear from this world in less than half a month. But if I use the identity of a member of the Law Enforcement Hall, it'll be completely different. Han Xiaoran's eyes were full of admiration. Chu Yang's comprehension ability really made him admire him. Chu Yang could infer many things from one instance. So much so that he had only started to speak, and Chu Yang had already understood everything. It was really comfortable and pleasant to talk to such a person. After the medicine banquet, you'll have to gain fame. Then, with fame, you'll be able to rely on others to enter another important occasion to absorb talent. Han Xiaoran's face was solemn, and this occasion is the key. It's also the key to your future achievements. Chu Yang said, oh? Han Xiaoran said, what I'm talking about is the Heavenly Prosperity Assembly. Heavenly Tripod Assembly? Chu Yang was puzzled. Yes, the Heavenly Tripod Assembly is an assembly held once every 100 years in the Heavenly Tripod continent. It's also a chance for the martial artists in the world to reach the heavens in one step. And you, if you become the new king of medicine, then you'll have the chance to become this heavens in one step. Han Xiaoran smiled and said, if the big clans really have a conspiracy to deal with the law enforcement officers, our forces will also start to take shape at that time. Chu Yang nodded solemnly. He had vaguely heard about the Heavenly Tripod Assembly and the medicine banquet before, but he didn't know much about it. Now that he knew that it was actually these two places, he was instantly interested. To be continued. Chapter 830. You can marry me if you want. Lu Tingyun said, love without sexual bliss won't last long. If you want a woman to belong to you forever, the first thing you have to do is to make sure she can't leave your bed. Is it really just pain? Mu Han didn't believe it and asked again. Han Jingyan nodded her head like a rattledrum. Mu Han was deeply affected by her straightforwardness. He pulled his hair and his face turned green and white. Han Jingyan looked at him in fear. She was afraid that Mu Han would pounce on her and force himself on her. To do it or not to do it? This was a question worth pondering. Looking at Han Jingyan's pitiful and aggrieved look, Mu Han was very conflicted. He was currently looking up. He was burning with desire and his heart was itching unbearably. If he stopped at this time, it would most likely leave a scar for the rest of his life. He might even be impotent forever. Han Jingyan's expression gave him the heaviest blow to his dignity as a man. As a true powerhouse, how could he not let his woman experience sexual bliss? He pulled his hair and pressed down on Han Jingyan again with a pale face. He didn't give up and asked again, you really didn't enjoy it? Han Jingyan's face was as red as a tomato. She squeezed out a voice from between her teeth, no. She was so resolute that it hurt Mu Han. How could this be? He looked at his erect little brother and then looked at Han Jingyan with an expression that said, don't even think about forcing yourself on me again. Mu Han had to admit that he was being looked down upon. Moreover, it was a question of a man's ability. He looked at Han Jingyan aggrievedly and coaxed softly, "Be good. Let me try again, okay? My little brother really hurts." Han Jingyan's face was burning red. After hearing his shameless words, she really wanted to tear his mouth apart. He looked at her and said, "You just said that you will love me. My little brother is really in pain. Can you bear to see it impotent forever?" Han Jingyan was embarrassed and angry. She didn't know who Mu Han learned this shameless look from. She really wanted to slap this shameless pervert to death. However, she thought about it again. His willingness to coax her meant that he was in a good mood. If she really dared to slap him, there was no guarantee that he wouldn't go berserk and torture her to death. The more she thought about it, the more she couldn't make up her mind. Her life had been ruined by Mu Han. When he was in a good mood, she was his lover in the palm of his hand. When he was unhappy, she was a slave crawling at his feet. Han Jingyan's eyes were red as he looked at him, feeling wronged. Although Mu Han's gaze was gentle, it carried the unquestionable authority of a superior. Her face was as red as a ripe tomato, making people want to take a bite. "Good girl, don't let it wait too long." He wrapped his arms around her waist and smiled fawningly. "You have to learn to adapt, right? You said you would love me, right? We are doing what is good for love. Why don't you kiss it?" He looked at her with a burning gaze and saw her face turn red as if blood was about to drip out. He felt even more aggrieved than her. Lu Tingyun's girlfriend always helps him suck on his penis. "Little Yang Yang, didn't you say you would love me? Who would ask someone else's lover like this?" Han Jingyan was so embarrassed that she couldn't raise her head. Mu Han was still nagging her. She really wanted to find a hole to hide in. Did he want her to live or not? Mu Han was so happy that he immediately stripped himself naked. He pressed Han Jingyan's hand to his crotch and coaxed softly, "It likes you a lot. Touch it." He had always been direct in his masturbation. In the past, those women would always faint from his violence, but they would still stick to him when they woke up. Therefore, he always thought that he was very good in this aspect. Mu Han had never thought that this kind of masturbation was wrong. It was only when Han Jingyan cried out in pain and begged for mercy that he started to realize that he was a little too rough. He didn't know much about sex. Although Lu Tingyun was an expert in masturbation, he always gave him dirty tricks. He would spoof Japanese adult education films for him. Mu Han learned from him. He wanted to give Han Jingyan a happy sex life, but he didn't expect that it would be so far away. It even left a shadow in Han Jingyan's heart. Han Jingyan touched Mu Han as she shed tears. She didn't tell him what she was feeling, but she just couldn't stop her tears. She felt that she was really cheap. She was no different from a prostitute. Han Jingyan opened her eyes and glared at the hand that was being held tightly by Mu Han. She really wanted to chop off the ugly thing that was slowly growing in her hand. She bit her lower lip. The more she thought about it, the more she wanted to cry. Why didn't it let her go? He smiled coldly. "Han Jingyan, this is mine." Han Jingyan shouted, "No, you said you wanted to use your hand." She blamed him angrily. Mu Han shrugged and smiled. "You believe a man's words in bed? You're so silly and naive." Chapter 831. Seeing that the moon had already set to the west, Han Xiaoran finished the wine in front of him. His body was a little shaky, and he said, "Little brother, it's not early anymore. From today onwards, your life will be stormy. It's better for you to rest early." What a surprise! Chu Yang laughed and turned his thoughts back to the Chu clan. He thought, what's the situation in the Chu clan now? Han Xiaoran stood up and patted Chu Yang's shoulder. He seemed to be a little drunk, but Chu Yang knew that he wasn't drunk. With Han Xiaoran's alcohol tolerance, he wouldn't be drunk even if there were dozens of jars of wine, let alone this much wine. But often, the words spoken when one pretended to be drunk were the true insights. Since Han Xiaoran behaved like this, there must be something important that he wanted to tell Chu Yang that was inconvenient to say when he was sober. So, Chu Yang immediately pricked up his ears. Han Xiaoran was drunk and laughed loudly. Then, he lowered his voice and leaned his whole body on Chu Yang's shoulder, as if he was too drunk to stand. Sho Xinliang and Qin Baoshan put their arms around each other's shoulders knowingly and whispered at one side. Han Xiaoran leaned close to Chu Yang's ear and laughed softly. He said, "Brother, there's no other choice in this world. No matter if you want to do good or do evil, you need power. And all these require power and influence. As long as you have fame, you can have influence. With influence, you can have power. Only when you have power, you can have people to rely on. That's why you have power. If you want to do good, but you don't have power, then don't talk about helping others. You don't even dare to marry a beautiful wife, because you can't protect her. Marrying a beautiful wife is just waiting to be cuckolded. If you want to do evil, but you don't have power, you can only be a model. If you have power, even if you kill someone in front of the Dharma Supreme, the Dharma Supreme will also turn a blind eye. Just like Yi Wubwa, isn't he evil? Haha, but today, even I can only watch him leave. Punishing him with 10,000 purple crystals is just a small gesture. Everyone, do you want face? Yi Wubwa has done too many evil deeds in his life. He should have died 100 times. Don't I want to kill him? Don't I want to catch him? But he has power behind him, the Yi clan. This is called being helpless. So what if your chest hurts from holding it in? So, little brother, in this life, you must not be helpless. Don't be as helpless as this old brother. The laws of heaven are the most sacred things. I hold them in my hands, but I don't dare to kill them. If there are scruples about the law, then what kind of law is this? If you also feel helpless, then you will feel helpless. So, entering this life, in order to not feel helpless, we have to do something, something that can make us feel less helpless. Han Xiaoran laughed. Isn't this also a kind of helplessness? He let go of Chu Yang's shoulder, and roared as he left. He laughed all the way, helpless ah. His body disappeared into the thick darkness of the night amidst the helpless sound of his voice. Chu Yang stood there in a daze. He pondered over the meaning of these words for a long time. Then, he slowly turned around and walked back. Before he left, he didn't say goodbye to Sho Xinliang and Qin Baoshan. Since Han Xiaoran told him in this way, his meaning was obvious. Don't let Sho Xinliang know about it. Why don't I let him know? Chu Yang asked himself. Because Sho Xinliang doesn't have such courage, Chu Yang answered himself. Then what did he mean? Did he just say that he felt helpless? No, he told me that I have to build up my own strength and influence first. But he already said that just now. What he said just now was to build up everyone's influence. Not my influence. My influence. What is my influence? My influence is the influence that I can completely make decisions for myself. This kind of influence is different from what he said just now. Of course it's different, because this is the real backup plan that Han Xiaoran has arranged. Once everyone's influence fails, there must be a completely independent influence left. So, although Han Xiaoran has planned this operation thoroughly, he still isn't confident. Yes. So he reminded me that although he's the leader now, I can't rely on him for everything. Yes, I need to have my own plans. Rely on yourself for everything. This is the real meaning of what Han Xiaoran wanted to say. Chu Yang walked all the way back to the Chu clan silently. When Chu Yang reached home, it was almost dawn. But the Chu clan was still in a busy and sorrowful state. Chu Yang was caught by his mother, who had been waiting anxiously for a long time, and interrogated. After dealing with his parents, he was called by his grandfather for another round of interrogation. Is it you? Chu Xiongqing looked at his grandson blankly, and his eyes were red. Chu Yang realized that half of his grandfather's hair had turned white overnight. It has something to do with me, Chu Yang said frankly, but it wasn't me who did it. Chu Xiongqing let out a long sigh and sat on the chair wearily. He waved his hand and asked Chu Yang to go back and rest. However, he seemed to have lost all his strength and didn't want to say a word. Chu Yang sighed, bowed and turned to leave. I can guess what he's done all these years. Although I don't have any evidence, I've always been suspicious. Chu Xiongqing said softly when Chu Yang was about to leave the room. Chu Yang paused. But I didn't do anything, Chu Xiongqing murmured. Because he's still your flesh and blood, Chu Yang said quietly. I can understand you, but I can't agree with you. And I won't agree with you. That's because you're still young, and you haven't been a father, Chu Xiongqing said sadly. Maybe. Chu Yang was silent for a while, and said, but even if I'm a father, I won't allow an unfilial child to cause another obedient child to be wronged and persecuted. Chu Yang said lightly, it's good for a son to be filial, but a filial son doesn't mean that you'll allow him to be wronged indefinitely. Chu Xiongqing sighed deeply. A bowl of water isn't full. But it's also because of this that the Chu clan has always been in a half-dead state, and hasn't improved for so many years. Chu Yang said, as the clan master, you're not just a father. You don't have the right to let thousands of people in the clan die for an unfilial son. After saying that, Chu Yang walked out of the door without looking back. Chu Xiongqing sat beside the coffin, motionless under the oil lamp. After a long time, his tears fell silently, and he sighed, but even if I'm wrong, I'm still a father. The next day. In the morning. The Chu clan, which was busy with the funeral, welcomed a distinguished guest. The law enforcement officer of the southeast region, Han Xiaoran, entered the Chu clan in a high-profile manner. The local law enforcement hall was escorted by 80 law enforcement officers, and Commander Shuo Xinliang cleared the way. The law enforcement auction hall was escorted by Clan Master Qin Baoshan, and all the members of the law enforcement blood pairs hall were following behind. Han Xiaoran entered the Chu clan with a great momentum and shook the entire flat mountain ridge. He made an agreement with the clan master of the Chu clan, Chu Xiongqing, and gave the Chu clan the right to escort goods. Then, a few law enforcement officers spread the news and issued orders to various places. They even reported to the top clan in the southeast region, the Xiao clan, immediately. This was equivalent to Han Xiaoran declaring to the Xiao clan, in the future, the Chu clan will be under my protection. Please let go of the Xiao clan. For the sake of the law enforcement officers, please give me face. Han Xiaoran's cultivation was definitely not the highest in the southeast region. Even in the Xiao clan, there were many people whose cultivation was higher than Han Xiaoran's. However, Han Xiaoran's identity was directly under the Dharma Supreme, the law enforcement officer of the southeast region. This identity was like that of a governor of the border. Who dared to disrespect him? The Chu clan had the backing of the entire southeast law enforcement officers and the Dharma Supreme. Therefore, no matter how unhappy the Xiao clan was, they could only accept it for the time being. At the same time, Han Xiaoran sent out news to the elders of the Liao clan and Bao clan, as well as the temporary elders of the Xiao clan, to rush to the Chu clan and announce the dominant position of the Chu clan in the flat mountain ridge. They even killed 7 elders of the Liao clan and Bao clan who dared to disagree with them. They used their blood to show their determination to bring the Liao clan and Bao clan into the Chu clan's territory. If there's any problem with the goods, both of you will be held responsible. Han Xiaoran's words completely stopped the Liao clan and Bao clan from having any devious thoughts. The ruthlessness of the law enforcement officers, Han Xiaoran's heartlessness, and the silence of the Xiao clan made the Liao clan and Bao clan feel as if they had fallen into an ice cave. Han Xiaoran sat coldly on the high platform, full of murderous intent. Beside him, the law enforcement officers from the law enforcement hall, the law enforcement auction hall, and the law enforcement blood pairs hall all had murderous looks in their eyes. Obviously, as long as the 2 clans dared to say no, they would be exterminated. Under the threat of survival if they nodded, and death if they shook their heads, the 2 heads of the Liao clan and Bao clan could only sign this inexplicable contract with tears in their eyes. This was really a disaster that fell from the heavens. Moreover, they couldn't figure out the reason at all. Since ancient times, there had been many annexations by aristocratic clans, but it was the first time that law enforcement officers came out to help annexation. They really didn't know what kind of luck the Chu clan had to encounter such a thing that fell from the heavens. Subsequently, Han Xiaoran announced that Chu Feiling, Chu Feiyan, and Chu Feihan from the Chu clan would be the commanders of the caravan. And they were awarded the flag that represented the southeast law enforcement officer on the spot. This action showed that Han Xiaoran was trying his best to support the Chu clan. It was obvious that he was trying his best. He wanted the Liao clan and Bao clan to give up completely. Subsequently, Qin Baoshan represented the law enforcement auction hall to pay the Chu clan a deposit of 3,000 purple crystals. This made everyone's jaws drop. All along, it was the caravan that paid the law enforcement auction hall as a deposit, and after the goods arrived safely, the deposit would be returned to the law enforcement auction hall after it was confirmed that there was no mistake. But now, the law enforcement auction hall actually paid the deposit first. There was such a saying. Finally, Han Xiaoran expressed his deep condolences for the death of the second master of the Chu clan, Chu Feilong, and said, "The murderer has been found, and the law enforcement hall has punished him. The murderer is willing to pay 8,000 purple crystals as compensation to the Chu clan, to be continued." Chapter 832. After completing the ceremony, Han Xiaoran had a cordial conversation with Clan Master Chu Xiongcheng. Then, he warned the other big clans and left hurriedly. Strange pop-up window Qi came and went as fast as lightning. Everyone felt as if they were in a dream. Everyone in the Chu clan felt the same way. This was a great thing for the Chu clan. Even the sad atmosphere caused by the death of Chu Feilong's father was blown away to the greatest extent. Originally, the biggest source of income for the Chu clan in the flat mountain ridge was to compete with the other two clans for the Xiao clan's trade route. As for the trade with the law enforcement hall, the Chu clan didn't even dare to think about it. That was a big cake, but the Chu clan didn't have the ability to eat it. Besides, the law enforcement officers were known to be difficult to talk to. Once there was a little mistake, even if the Chu clan lost the entire clan, it wouldn't be enough to make up for the anger of the law enforcement officers. But now, such a great thing was not only sent to the Chu clan, but also gave them preferential treatment. Not only did the Chu clan give them a source of income, but they also didn't need to bear any responsibility. How could there be such a good thing? The Liao clan and the Bao clan were completely shocked. In this case, even if they submitted to the Chu clan, it wouldn't be a bad thing. Because it was obvious that the Chu clan had a lot of connections. It was good to lean on a big tree. Now that the Chu clan had just started to develop, there wasn't much that could be done. As long as everyone worked hard and developed, they wouldn't be mistreated, right? Their future was bright. The Chu clan immediately became busy. Master Chu Xiongcheng took this opportunity to integrate the three big clans. The two commanders, Chu Feiling and Chu Feiyan, were immediately appointed. All the experts above the 5th grade of martial emperor from the three big clans were selected to form a group of bodyguards for the caravan. Each clan sent out 3 martial monarchs, while the Chu clan sent out 4 martial monarchs. A total of 10 martial monarchs were to hold the fort. The bodyguards were ready to go on the road and start the trade. The resistance from the other 2 big clans didn't happen. Instead, they cooperated. Everything went smoothly. The Liao clan became the second hall of the Chu clan, and the Bao clan became the third. The Chu clan naturally became the headquarters. In the afternoon, Qin Baoshan from the law enforcement auction hall sent a message. There was a mission. Chu Feiling and Chu Feiyan immediately set off on their journey to strengthen the Chu clan. The Chu clan's funeral was also hastily handled. Although the situation was still solemn, it wasn't considered a big occasion. This was because old Master Chu was still alive. Chu Feilong's father would at most die a premature death. It wouldn't be a major funeral. This was the custom of the Chong Tian. Everything was carried out in secret. Everything was simple and fast. Divine Dr. Chu looked and listened for a while, and finally realized that even if he wasn't here, it didn't seem to matter. Actually, it was like he had hunted a rabbit on the night of the 35th day of the Lunar New Year. With or without him, he would still celebrate the Lunar New Year. So, Divine Dr. Chu wanted to slip away. Taking advantage of the fact that no one was paying attention, Chu Yang quietly started to move. After taking a few steps, he was grabbed by a pair of small hands. "Take me back too." It was Chu Le. The little girl was very tired. Because Chu Le insisted on following him, and she was so tired that she couldn't walk, Chu Yang could only carry this little girl on his back. How pitiful. Divine Dr. Chu sighed in his heart. Even if I'm in the law enforcement hall, I have a special carriage to sit in. But in my own home, I don't even have such treatment. Just as he left the Chu clan's gate, he saw a few black-clothed people standing in front of the gate. Behind him, there was a person who was looking at Chu Yang with unfriendly eyes. Chu Yang frowned. These 7 people were from the Xiao clan's flat mountain ridge branch. The first person to enter was the temporary host of the Xiao clan. He was still inside just now. Why did he suddenly appear here? Looking at the situation, it seemed that the host was specially here to block him. You're Chu Yang? The master of the purple crystals Huichun Hall? The first person looked at Chu Yang with gloomy eyes and a hooked nose. He looked at Chu Yang with some disdain and asked lightly, "What do you want from the Xiao clan?" Chu Yang, who was carrying Chula, didn't put her down. He curled his lips and replied lightly, "You're rude to me, so how can I be respectful to you?" Xiao clan? So what? Wasn't Xiao Yulong crippled by me? Xiao Yulong fell into your trap? Not only did he die tragically, but he also compensated you with a large sum of purple crystals. The hooked nose asked heavily. That's the punishment of the law enforcement officers. It has nothing to do with me. Chu Yang pushed the blame away cleanly. The hooked nose snorted coldly. His face was covered with a layer of frost. You think that you can do whatever you want with the law enforcement officers backing you up? Chu Yang sneered and said, "You're right. If all the law enforcement officers in the world are backing me up, then I really have nothing to fear." The hooked nose was so angry that he couldn't say anything. He snorted heavily and said, "I'm Xiao Yucheng." Chu Yang said weakly, "I've heard a lot about you. Xiao Yulong is my younger cousin." Xiao Yucheng looked at Chu Yang with his eagle-like eyes and said heavily, "Not only did he die for no reason, but he also died too unjustly." Chu Yang sighed and said, "All the people who die say this." Xiao Yucheng sneered. He lowered his voice and said, "Grand Duke Chu, you'll say this very soon. You dare to blackmail my Xiao clan. You've got guts." Chu Yang said impatiently, "Do you dare to kill me today?" Xiao Yulong said angrily, "Do you think I don't dare?" Chu Yang sighed and walked over with Chula on his back. He stretched out his hand and pushed Xiao Yucheng to one side. He walked past Xiao Yucheng and scolded, "There's always such a group of idiots in the world. They obviously don't dare to, but they still say that they dare to. They're just flaunting their authority with their mouths. I've seen a lot of such idiots. If you want to kill me, just kill me. Cut the crap. To think that I thought that someone with some backbone had come. I didn't expect that I've wasted half a day's worth of saliva. Just now, when the law enforcement master was here, I didn't see this guy being so awesome. When Sho Xinliang and the other law enforcement officers were here, this guy also didn't dare to fart. But now, he's blocking me. He really knows how to bully others. Tomorrow, I'll catch a rat and scold him. Isn't he just bullying the weak and fearing the strong? Who doesn't know how to do that?" As he scolded, he carried Chula and walked away. Xiao Yucheng was so angry that he almost couldn't breathe. He glared at Chu Yang as he walked away with Chula on his back. After a long time, he finally started to pant. The other law enforcement officers also turned purple with anger. "Chu Yang, when you land in my hands, I'll make you pay 1,000 times the price for what you said today." Xiao Yucheng panted. "Don't think that you can sit back and relax just because you've curried favor with the law enforcement officers." He thought that Chu Yang wouldn't be able to hear him because he didn't have any cultivation. But he didn't expect that Chu Yang could hear every word clearly. In front of him, Chula crisp laughter could be heard. "Brother Chu Yang, your words are really hooligan. But I like it." Hee. Xiao Yucheng's face became distorted. Chu Yang said faintly, "You must remember that it's okay to scold such a cowardly person. You can even scold his own mother. Yes. Big brother, you're so awesome. I'll remember it. That person doesn't dare to say a word after being scolded by you. But it's better that big brother doesn't scold his mother. That's not good. Yes, is a good girl. She's soft-hearted. I like Gaga. Yes, I won't scold his mother in the future. Yes, big brother is so nice. You can just scold his father." The voices of the brother and sister faded away. The 7 members of the Xiao clan stood there in a daze. Murderous aura was emanating from Chu Yang's body. His face was distorted and smoke was coming out of his 7 orifices. Chu Yang didn't intend to speak nicely at all. He understood very well, since the Xiao clan had specially sent Xiao Yulong's cousin here to preside over this matter, then the meaning of this was obvious. One could even guess it with their knees. Since this matter couldn't be avoided or resolved no matter what, why should I swallow this insult? So, he took advantage of the fact that Xiao Yuqing was at the gate of the Chu clan. Moreover, Han Xiaoran had just supported him. He was sure that Xiao Yuqing wouldn't dare to lay his hands on him. So, he scolded him fiercely. Even if he still had to kill him in the end, this scolding still made him happy. The little girl's body was very light. But King of Hell Chu didn't use his cultivation, and only used his physical strength to carry her. In the end, it felt like he was carrying a small mountain. When Chu Yang returned to the Purple Crystal's Huichun Hall, he couldn't even lift his legs. When he finally arrived at the Purple Crystal's Huichun Hall, he saw that Huang Xiaoliu was angrily refusing to drink the medicine. Seeing that Divine Dr. Chu wasn't around, Huang Xiaoliu finally started to make trouble. Chu Yang was very angry. He shouted, "Get lost if you don't want to drink it. Why do you have so many bad habits?" Huang Xiaoliu's whole body trembled as if he had heard thunder. His face turned pale, and he drank the medicine obediently. Now, when Huang Xiaoliu saw Chu Yang, it was as if he had seen the incarnation of a devil. He felt an indescribable fear. Then, he ran to the corner of the wall with a bitter face. He slanted his nose and mouth, and the corners of his mouth opened slightly. A line of bright saliva could be seen flowing down from the corner of his mouth. Drip, 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 drip. It was the bitter water that flowed out from the physiological reaction of his mouth. This kind of bitter water, no matter if it was too sour or too bitter, would flow out. Huang Xiaoliu couldn't vomit, but he realized that this could slightly reduce the uncomfortable feeling in his heart. So, every time he drank the medicine, he would lean against the corner of the wall and drool by himself. Huang Xiaoliu had been drinking the medicine for 3 days. In these 3 days, Huang Xiaoliu felt that he had already spent 3 years. No, it was 30 years. Every day, Huang Xiaoliu would feel full after drinking a bowl of yellowish medicinal soup. Even if he wasn't full, he would feel full from the disgust. It's like shit. Is this still a day? On the 4th day, the people from the Huang clan came back. Chu Yang still underestimated how much the Huang clan valued this only son. Not only did they bring back all the medicines that Chu Yang needed for the so-called second course of treatment, but they also brought back extremely detailed information. Not only that, the clan master of the Huang clan also came personally. He even brought along Huang Xiaoliu's mother, his 4 concubines, and Huang Xiaoliu's 2 wives. And a large number of experts to protect them. Such a huge lineup made Divine Dr. Chu dumbfounded. To be continued. Chapter 833. When the few husbands saw Huang Xiaoliu, they immediately called him darling. They surrounded him and asked him questions. Huang Xiaoliu was at the most uncomfortable moment in his life. When he saw his wife, he immediately burst into tears and rolled on the ground, as if he had suffered some grievances. He cried and complained, causing the other husbands to tear up. Some of them couldn't help but look at Chu Yang with an unfriendly look in their eyes. In fact, some of them were gnashing their teeth. Chu Yang finally understood how this playboy came about. It seems that Huang Xiaoliu is treated like a treasure at home. Who dares to reprimand him? Huang Gong's 2 wives stood timidly at one side. They seemed to be a little embarrassed, and their faces were red. Divine Dr. Chu looked over and saw that Huang Xiaoliu's 2 wives were beautiful. Although they weren't exceedingly beautiful, they had graceful figures and were very elegant. Although they were dressed as young women, they were obviously still virgins from their figures and faces. There was a little bitterness in their eyes. When Huang Gong saw his wives, he immediately felt guilty. He didn't even cry anymore. He rubbed his hands, smiled embarrassedly, and occasionally sighed secretly. Helpless. Divine Dr. Chu suddenly had a deep realization. The biggest helplessness in life wasn't that he couldn't earn money or gather strength, It was that he couldn't do anything despite having two beautiful wives by his side. Chu Yang really sympathized with Huang Xiaoliu at this moment. Under such circumstances, he actually persisted for so long and didn't commit suicide. Huang Gong's endurance was also one of the best in the world. How many worries could one have in life? He was just like Huang Xiaoliu, who had beautiful wives. If Huang Gong went to the brothel, he would be even more worried. This time, Clan Master Huang even specially brought a pharmaceutical master to study Huang Xiaoliu's condition with divine Dr. Chu. The pharmaceutical master's surname was also Huang, and his name was Huang Yarosha. Huang Yarosha was studying the medicinal decoction made by divine Dr. Chu for a long time. Finally, he whispered to Clan Master Huang, "This medicinal decoction is the first one I've seen in my life. And it has a mysterious power. It seems that it's very beneficial to men. It seems that divine Dr. Chu is helping Huang Gong to strengthen his foundation." Clan Master Huang instantly beamed with joy and felt relieved. Clan Master Huang was thin, like a twin. When he saw Chu Yang, he sighed, cupped his hands and laughed heartily. "Divine Dr. Chu? Ha ha ha. Thank you for taking care of me. I've troubled you during this period." Chu Yang smiled and said, "Clan Master Huang is too polite." He thought, "This Clan Master Huang is much smaller than my son. My name is Huang Shong. He, I am the current head of the Huang family." The head of the Huang family revealed his name. Divine Dr. Chu's body shook, and he almost kowtowed. "Your Majesty." "Huang, Huang, 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 noble, Shong." Huang family head had seen this kind of expression many times. He didn't know how many people had misunderstood this name, so he didn't care at all. He said, "It's not the emperor who entered the imperial court. Huang, Huang, Clan Master Huang's Clan Master Huang, Huang Clan, divine Dr. Chu, you don't have to be so polite. Besides worrying about my son, I also want to ask you a question." Huang Shong squeezed out a smile on his thin face and said in a low voice, "Divine Dr. Chu, how confident are you in curing my son's illness?" Without waiting for Chu Yang to answer, Huang Shong added, "To restore him to a normal man, that kind of cough cough cough, that kind of power?" Chu Yang pondered and said, "But how confident is the Huang clan to find those few key medicines?" Huang Shong stroked his beard and said, "I've inquired about those few medicines through the law enforcement hall and asked the 5 big clans one after another. Finally, I've got their whereabouts. Our Huang clan has the poisonous stinging iron cucumber. As for the absolute vine, we have 3 stalks in the Medicine Valley. Lifeless deathwater is stored in the Ling clan. And the life pangolin is in the Zhuge clan. As long as divine Dr. Chu says that you're confident, I'll immediately send 200,000 purple crystals to the Medicine Valley, the Zhuge clan and the Ling clan. I'll buy the medicines back at all cost." Chu Yang's heart shook. He thought, "Damn it, there's no comparison between the two. I'm so worried about the 30,000 purple crystals that I don't even know how to spend them." But this Clan Master Huang actually offered 200,000 purple crystals. He's indeed extremely rich. But he's also extremely concerned about his son. Chu Yang smiled and said, "As long as Clan Master Huang can get these few medicines, I can guarantee that once you get the medicines today, you'll be able to return to normal tomorrow. Not only that, but your ability will even surpass Chang Jin." "Good." Huang Shong clapped his hands and his face flushed red. He said, "Are you serious?" "I'm not lying." Chu Yang smiled slightly. "If I've lied to Clan Master Huang, then our Chu clan doesn't seem to be a match for the Huang clan." Chu Yang made a joke. Huang Shong laughed and said, "The Chu clan now is also gradually rising. Even I admire the Chu clan from the bottom of my heart for being so resourceful." "Clan Master Huang, you're too kind." Chu Yang smiled reservedly. Huang Shong put down one of his worries and walked out to whisper to a few of his men. Instantly, the few men's faces were full of joy. Then, Huang Shong issued a series of orders, at all costs, with the fastest speed, with the shortest distance, with, no matter what, you must get the medicine. Immediately, a large number of attendants rushed out and rode away. After everything was arranged properly, Huang Shong came in with a face full of joy. "Divine Dr. Chu, This poison is really caused by the art of severing grandchildren, right? Chu Yang was surprised and displeased. Do you think that I've seen wrongly? Huang Shong laughed and rubbed his hands. Then, he thought of something and his face turned gloomy. He said, to be honest, Divine Dr. Chu, these few days, after receiving the news, I've immediately investigated the life of the art of severing descendants, Sao Wufei. Chu Yang rolled his eyes and pretended that he didn't take it to heart. He said, oh. In fact, he had pricked up his ears and paid full attention to it. Back then, Sao Wufei ran amok in Chongtian and did all kinds of evil deeds. No one knew how many descendants he had killed. Finally, he aroused public anger. 2 big clans sent their men to cooperate with the blood pairs of the world to encircle and annihilate him, Huang Shong said. Which 2 clans? Chu Yang asked casually. One of them is the #1 dominant clan in Chongtian, the Yi clan. At that time, Yi Di, the #1 expert of the younger generation of the Yi clan, was dispatched. He was also the ancestor of the Yi clan, a supreme martial artist. Now, no one knows if he's still in the world. When Huang Shong said the name Yi Di, his tone was full of respect. Yi Di. Chu Yang muttered to himself and remembered this name. And the other clan is the Xiao clan. Xiao Se, the #1 expert of the younger generation of the Xiao clan, was dispatched as well. And when Xiao Se became a martial saint later on, he mysteriously disappeared. That was 7,100 years ago. Huang Shong said slowly. And as far as I know, Sao Wufei was first severely injured by Yi Di and escaped with his injuries. Then, he was killed by Xiao Se. Huang Shong's voice was heavy. Chu Yang pondered and said, in other words, the one who killed Sao Wufei was Xiao Se. And the first one to get Sao Wufei's corpse was also Xiao Se. Exactly. Huang Shong nodded heavily. Chu Yang was silent. He knew that there were many things that Huang Shong needed to deduce by himself. If he said it, it would not have that effect. If that's the case, then Xiao Se got Sao Wufei's art of severing descendant. Huang Shong said seriously. In these 7,000 years, the Xiao clan must have had many people practicing it. Ever since the rise of our Huang clan, the Xiao clan didn't pay much attention to us at first. That was until our Huang clan produced a brilliant Huang Feng. Huang Feng's ancestor was a peerless genius, and he unintentionally saved an important item of the Yi clan. They became sworn brothers and helped each other out. So, things got out of hand. The Huang clan slowly grew. From a small clan, it developed into a huge clan in 300 years. Later on, the Huang clan's descendants also lived up to expectations. Generation after generation, the clan became more and more prosperous. Until 400 years ago, the Huang clan suddenly began to decline. Once the important members of the clan left, there would be no news about them. They would disappear without a trace. Moreover, the number of younger brothers in the clan was also very small. Later on, it was found that it was a small clan that poisoned them. Since then, it was peaceful for a few years. In the recent 200 years, things got worse. Several members of the Huang clan successively contracted this unspeakable disease, resulting in no descendants. There were also some who were mysteriously killed. In my generation, it was even worse. Of my 4 sons, 3 died in accidents one after another. The last one actually also. Huang Shong sighed, his eyes filled with intense hatred. I suspected the Xiao clan more than once, but I never had any evidence. Today, I finally understood. The origin of everything is in the hands of this art of severing descendants. The Xiao clan's schemes are truly deep and vicious. As long as the Huang clan's bloodline is cut off, the Huang clan will collapse without a fight. Moreover, such a slow decline won't attract any attention. It's more beneficial for them to gather the strength of the Huang clan after its decline. Huang Shong gritted his teeth. The Xiao clan wants to cut off our Huang clan's bloodline. So, Clan Master Huang has already confirmed it, Chu Yang said lightly. Yes. Since that's the case, Clan Master Huang's visit today has brought me a lot of trouble. Chu Yang sighed. Trouble is destined, Huang Shong sighed. When Divine Dr. Chu took over Xia Liu, trouble was destined. Chu Yang let out an O sound. Then, He looked at him meaningfully and said, "This sentence is not bad." Huang Shong's eyebrows were filled with ruthlessness. He said, "Since the Xiao clan can lay their hands on our Huang clan without any reason, why can't our Huang clan lay our hands on them?" To be continued. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.